to work on the radio. That's like one of my dreams.
Yep. Fading, I like it.
It's fading in. We're professional, aren't we now?
Yeah, I like the fading.
So,
can you fade out as well?
Welcome to Borough Cans, the Wise Fools. It's me and Rory today. How are you doing, mate?
Good, yeah. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. We're joined with another guest, as we always are.
Yes.
Let's introduce Helen Bartram. Hello, Helen.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. We've been away a little bit, haven't we?
We have, yeah. Been quiet some time.
Don't know why. I just think we've been busy for a bit. We've been working out what to do with Borough Can.
You annoyed me last time, so I just didn't want to come down anymore.
You absolute cock.
Hold on, what
Yeah.
we missed out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So full of shit. Look at you straight. So we're just straight back after a few like that. You just annoyed me. Oh fuck it, you annoyed me more. Look at you coughing all your COVID all over me as well.
No.
Not just calling me. You're like you're trying to kill me as well.
COVID negative, just so everyone knows. I've done many tests. Anyway.
I feel like I should be on danger money for this.
Yeah.
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 COVID negative over there. We've just gone straight into the firing line of.
Have you done a test?
Annoyed me last time.
You can't do a test because they're about £100 each now.
Yeah.
You've got to just take the gamble in the world, haven't you?
Yeah. It's something. I've got something.
I know.
I don't know what it is.
Cost of living, literally.
Ridiculous.
I know.
But yeah, I'm good. It's been, as you know, it's been a rough couple of months. Up and down. But doing what I need to do to get there.
We needed time to recover as well from meeting an MP, didn't we?
That was a trip. That was a trip. And irrespective of what you think of his politics,
That's
just
it.
the gravity of that whole thing.
Yeah.
And trying to speak to somebody who you differ with whose opinions you differ with so greatly is really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard because he was a lovely guy.
He was.
But obviously his politics there's a bit of a crossover, but for the most part it's completely polar opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was tricky, but that was why we do these kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because irrespective of what you think of his politics, the grief that he gets by just random people, it's like, that's why we do it.
Yeah, no, it was a good. I mean, that was your angle. They wanted to, because I started getting into politics a little bit as well, but we could have gone down that road, but it wasn't.
He came with a dossier.
There's plenty.
He came with ring binders and shit like
ring
that.
binders.
Actually, we'll start.
I nearly just spat my coffee out.
Good. We'll start. What was the last gig you went to, or the last album you listened to?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Do you know this is really not my normal taste of music, but I've been listening to Taylor Swift's new album.
Fine.
Last gig.
You and the rest of friggin' America by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
We went to that Hardwick Hall Festival in the summer.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, that was mint.
Awesome.
Pissed down because it's a festival. We're in England. It's gonna. But yeah, just love live music.
Yeah, it's the best. Did you go to one not long ago?
Yeah, well, I was on the weekend. I was at Rock Orchestra in
Of course,
Stockton.
yeah.
Oh, how
Good.
was that?
Yeah, I went to see the Rock Orchestra by candlelight. Fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually, they were amazing. So they were playing everything from like sort of Akadaka all the way through like Rage Against the Machine, and they had
Who's Akadaka?
AC/DC.
Oh, fuck, Jesus
Fucking
Christ.
Akadaka, mate.
Akadaka.
Yeah, man.
That was like a dad saying then.
It was that's how the Aussies. It's obviously an Aussie band.
Yeah.
AC/DC. That's how they say. Anyway,
The lead singer from Shields.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, he's Brian Johnson from South Shields.
No shit.
Yeah, for real.
Well, give me an education.
North Shields or South Shields.
Yeah, so they were fucking tremendous, and it was funny because I think some of the people that saw the tickets, some people saw rock, and some people saw orchestra.
Yeah.
And I think there's about a quarter of people in there.
Metal studs and
yeah.
dinner
And there's
jackets.
one guy like reaching for the bouncer and saying, "Oh, they're talking." And it's like fuck it. Like say everyone's drinking and it's like just rocking out and stuff, and it was just like
That's on in
that was brilliant.
Scarborough at February again.
It is. You really should
Let's go.
I'm down for that.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Let's do it.
I'll let you buy me a ticket.
Yeah, and we
Really?
everybody right.
How gracious.
Oh, we've got a few gigs lined up as well. But yeah, Tadolf Switler.
Jesus. Richie.
I listened to a podcast that refers to her as Tadolf Switler because how nasty she is to ex-boyfriends and stuff like this.
Yeah, she's not as bad as Adele though. Adele crucifies ex-boyfriends.
Does she?
There's no worse fate as a man than being Adele's ex-boyfriend.
So that's the competition that we're going to level it at. It's
Yeah,
either
I
like
think so,
Tadolf Switler or Adele for like.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Speaking as a lady.
Am I a lady?
A lady.
Lady.
I'm a lady.
Speaking as a lady.
I
don't
can't
think ladies
speak on
do
behalf
that.
of being a lady. Not
No,
a
hold
lady.
on. I'm not sure like the direction you're taking that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
What's the question?
doesn't she get basically a lot of her content from like her relationships in the
But
States?
isn't that what's
I think
good
a lot
about
of
music?
artists do.
Well, maybe you're right.
Yeah, I love
Maybe
it.
you're right.
Yeah, Anthony Kiedis does from the Chili Peppers. Like everyone, Corey Taylor from Slipknot does. It just comes out different.
I love listening to music and thinking, oh, I wonder who they're talking about.
There was a really famous one of those. I forgot who it was. This Song Is About You. It was whatever the song was.
That's
They
what it's
wrote a song
called.
called This Song Is About You. Oh no, you probably think this song is about you. It was a mystery for years.
Them lyrics, different
Again,
tone.
Please.
I bet you think this song is about.
Yeah.
Either
I know
way.
that. I know that.
Yeah.
Who is it?
I don't know who. It's a woman that sings it, but there was a mystery for years and years as to who the person she was singing about was.
Right.
And it came out years later. It was something to do with Fleetwood Mac, I think.
Taylor Swift just got all her songs from the album in the top 10 American Billboard at the same time. So it's the first time.
Do you know what she done?
But I'm calling bullshit on that.
No, because
I'll tell you what.
there is a... sorry, you can
No,
do
you
that.
can, you
but
can.
It's... And I'm not even a Taylor Swift fan, but it's coming across like that. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I'm not judging Taylor Swift fans.
She's walking it back now. Right.
Shit. But actually, something happened when she left her record label.
Right.
She had to re-record all of her own material, so she owned the copyright to it. So as she's re-recorded it and released it, she's just gone... There's like a big hoo-ha about her at the minute in the States, so that's why she's like... a big deal.
It's a big thing, owning the masters to your own music. Like, not many people do it.
Crackers, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is a bit. Yeah. I'm just... I know part of it is obviously to do with streaming. And I was saying to Charlie, you used to have the album chart, like in the UK, album chart and the
Top
singles
40.
chart. Top 40. And
Not
you still have it.
Yeah.
But they include streaming as part of it now. So you get all the songs that have been in like Netflix show or something like suddenly become popular again. Like, what is it, Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush and stuff like that.
That really got my goat up, that.
Yeah.
Not the Kate Bush was back. No. The fact that when... Have you seen the finale?
Kate Bush scurrying up your back.
I'm sick of Kate Bush, always.
Always scurrying up
and
wax.
repotting plants and stuff.
Allegedly.
Yeah, did you see the finale of Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Nah.
Right, okay.
Spoilers.
There's a Metallica song in it, that's all I'll say.
There is.
And it got really popular. And
Yeah.
there was loads of like people my age, like, oh, fucking people from Stranger Things like a Metallica now. I've liked them since the beginning. It's like, who cares?
Who cares?
Who gives a shit?
Who cares?
And for what it's worth, no, you haven't, because they came out years before you were born.
Yeah.
Settle down.
Just enjoy it or don't.
Yeah. I hate that stuff.
I know, yeah. Oh, I was there first.
Yeah.
No
I used
one
to
cares.
be one of those, and it's just an exhausting existence.
I know. The idea that you only follow them then because no one else is. Like, what?
My kids are always mortified when they've heard a song on like TikTok or YouTube and they're singing it and I'm like joining, they'll look at me in disgust like, how do you know this? I'm like, yeah, this was out when I was your age.
Are they
and then
American?
I'm like, are they what?
The kids are
American.
I know, yeah.
Oh my
Is
God,
that
Mom.
I'm like, oh, Mom. Oh, Helen.
Helen
Helen.
from Alabama.
Fucking, I know, yeah.
We've descended straight away. It's like 4 minutes in. It's absolute anarchy.
I'm off anyway. I'm sick of being grilled.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
So you can't. So if it used to be the album chart, now I think it should be if you release it as a single off an album, then it's a single, and that can go in the singles chart. Everything else is album.
Yeah, I get you.
So I don't get. So it's like she's only been able to do that because the way they've changed the way
But
they
now,
measure it.
what is releasing a single?
Well,
Do you know what I mean? It used to be you'd release it
I know, yeah.
on a disc. What is
That's
it now? It's just a song. Like
So
Yeah.
Arctic Monkeys' new album.
The
I
Car.
like, I like three of the songs off it. That
I've
was
not listened to it yet.
I was like, okay, I think it's a bit pretentious personally, but that's just my own
Yeah.
view. But yeah, so they released I think 3 singles before the album got released, and I
Yeah.
think that's probably the direction. So you release the singles, and then when the album's released, that's it. Then it's the album.
I get it. But again, it's what is that? Because you could release 3 songs. Like Kanye West re-records his songs after the album's released and and changes them out.
Yeah,
It's just a file on a server now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I get you. That makes sense. I mean, it is what it is.
You
It is
just
what it is,
want
and she's
the old days
popular.
back, don't you?
She's just popular.
You want the top 40 of Dr. Fox.
I told
Coming in number 7, Taylor
Oh, yeah.
Swift. Number 6, Taylor Swift.
I could have a job then.
Yeah.
And getting your little tape out to record it when it's like,
That's
yes, go. And
I
I
used to
think
do that
We're showing
all
our
the
age
time.
now.
we miss out on the excitement, I think. And I get
Just
it,
sitting
like
waiting.
I buzz off having Spotify and being able to listen to anything anywhere. However, like that waiting, what is number
Yeah.
1? But also 2, like when I remember Woolworths in town and an album would come out and I'd buzz off it and go downtown and buy it.
I remember
Like
doing it on Boxing Day. I'd get record tokens for our price of Virgin Media, and I'd go on the train to Middlesbrough on Boxing Day with my little bottle Discman and
right.
get an album. It was the best. But
I can go better than that. Alan Fernley's in Borough.
I don't know what
Let's go
that
there.
is.
Alan Fernley's was a record shop. Proper
cool.
record. So you go in the vinyls, you had a record.
Yeah, yeah.
Couple of, like, 3 different records, and you go in
creative-
there. So when
yeah.
I was DJing and stuff, like you'd go in there, listen to the records.
Your portable
you had
vinyl
shit.
player on the train.
Just ruin all the records and I got shit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they were as expensive then as they are now.
Oh God, I've started doing it now though. So I listen to music all the time. I've been exposed to so much more on like streaming services than I ever would have done. But I also like the event of music. So I've got a vinyl player. I've got loads of vinyl. So if I want to sit and make a thing of it, I'll put it on and just listen to the whole thing through. Because I don't do that with albums anymore.
That sounds good, man.
Yeah. So Helen. Who are you?
Oh man.
She's American. Oh man.
Oh man.
But when she gets nervous, she has an American accent. Oh yeah.
Shit. Who am I?
Yeah, what do you do?
I don't know. I find this always really awkward and difficult
So,
to answer.
I can tell you how I know you.
Okay, you tell me how you know me. You see me at Russell Brand.
We did. That was the second time we ever met.
Yeah, it was.
Weirdly,
Same
and then
day
you
as
sent me
well.
a
That was
picture.
mental,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
I switched on Instagram and you tagged me in a picture of me sat. You were like 2 rows ahead with me giving Russell Brand a hug and then not letting him go.
Of course.
And so, but actually, before that, I think I'd been someone put us in touch with you. I think it was
Gareth. I think.
Gareth.
Gareth Howell. He put
Gareth
me in touch
Howell
with
from
you.
Walk and Talk.
You,
He
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
He's
He
a great
definitely did.
connector,
He's a
that man.
connector.
Yeah, he is. And I was like, well, it sounds like you're a coach and I kind of like life coach people, like a therapist as well, or kind of. You tell us.
Yeah.
You tell us.
Okay, so gosh, I do a bit of everything, so it's always difficult. My kind of passion is definitely coaching, helping people, whether that's helping someone with anxiety or helping them achieve goals. I don't care. I just want people to experience life the most they can while they're here and get as much joy out of it as possible. And sometimes that means helping them get their foundations right. Other times that means helping them find fun in life, because sometimes we forget that as adults. So that is my kind of passion.
What do you call it? Like a life coach, right?
I guess so. I call myself a happiness coach just because I love positive psychology, and that's all about kind of flourishing, happiness, joy.
Yeah.
I know happiness sounds a bit fluffy,
Yeah.
but I'm like, who doesn't want to be happy?
Yeah.
Like,
How do you? What do you have to study to do that?
to what, be a happiness coach?
Yeah,
I just
that's
made that name up.
But it's good.
Nothing. In terms of coaching, like, yes, coaching qualifications. My educational background is I've done counselling qualifications, psychology. I'm trained in EFT. I've done lots
What's
of
EFT?
Emotional freedom techniques. So tapping.
Yes. Yeah.
That can release trauma, it can release pain, it can help you stop craving food. There's so much power to it. It's so simple, it's great.
My counselor was telling me, my counselor told me about last session, the first time I'd ever heard of it.
Yeah.
She was saying, like, do daily affirmations of, I might not be doing very well, but I'm going to try my very best to make you tap different regions of your face. Yeah.
Like an affirmation. That's exactly it. It
great,
was. I just remember me and my partner went to like an event in Redcar where you were speaking.
Oh yes,
as well.
forgot about that.
Yeah, and that was that. So we
Was that our first initial?
Yeah, I think it actually
we didn't
was.
actually talk there though, did we? I
No,
don't think.
but I got in touch separately from there, and I was like, "Who's this?" And you did this talk about kind of it was about that. It was about kind of like setting your goals and kind of like affirmations and like positive, sort of an overview of positive psychology. It was really good. Like, we quite enjoyed that day. It was a shame that there wasn't more people there, but it was almost like the start of something happening in the area, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think if I remember rightly, I often forget what comes out my mouth once it's gone, but I think I was talking about actually like being okay with where you're at and still striving for more.
Yeah.
Like, what you've got is enough, but you can still
That was it.
want more.
It was
Yeah,
it.
because I think there's this kind of imbalance in life where people are either stagnant and just in acceptance of their current situation, or the opposite. They're so future focused on their goals and growing, and they're missing out on now. So
That's something I really struggle with.
okay.
Like, I never can settle on just being, okay, I've got what I need now.
Okay.
I get stagnant real quick.
Yeah.
It's something I'm trying to work on.
And I think we all are. I think the world that we're living and the conditioning, the adverts that we see, like, we're kind of geared up to be impatient, to desire more, to want more.
Yep.
And if we feel like, actually, I'm really content right now, we get that guilt of like, shit, I'm not striving for more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really envious, like properly envious. It's not of religious people or whatever. It's people who they've got something and they can just appreciate what they've got, and that's that. It's like my biggest, the thing I rue most in life.
But then I would contend that, because I think as humans, we're supposed to thrive, we're supposed to grow, we're supposed to face challenges. That if I see that, and this is just my perception, as I wouldn't be happy. Like, I'm so content in my life right now, but there's still so much that I want to achieve, and I know that I need to grow in order to do that.
What way do you think you need to grow?
To be able to do more of my mission here on earth, like to be able to give more, to be able to help more people. That if I just went, hey, I'm satisfied here, I feel like I'm not fulfilling.
No, I get you.
I'm going to say purpose, but I think that's a whole other story that I'm not sure we have a purpose, so you can take purposeful action every day. But I feel like in order to have purpose and meaning and fulfillment, I need challenge, I need goals, I need to strive, I need to thrive. And
I get you.
What have you supported many men? In that way?
I can see two right in front of me.
Men.
What do you mean? Have I spotted many men?
No, it's supported.
Supported.
Sorry,
my bad.
it's my
bad.
stupid speech. But no, there's
It's not
like,
stupid.
and have you in some way like found a difference between supporting men and women in that respect? Then? And actually,
100%.
the other question, half of that question is, and the starting point, like depending on where they're at, I guess. But is there a general starting point that you think? So if someone's listening to this now, and it was like, their life's a bit chaotic, or they're just not happy, what would you generally be your starting point with that?
Okay, so the first half of that, men and women, I've supported both in very different capacities. Women are more likely to reach out and be like, hey, what services do you offer? Men, and they're at the point where they're uncomfortable and they want change. In my experience, and I get this isn't everyone's experience, but in my experience, when men kind of come into my world and need support, it's when they're literally at the brink, like they are in crisis point and they've left it to that point where they're not in pain and discomfort and need change. They're literally screaming for help and they're like, the services are failing me, help me.
See, I think, you're obviously right. I have the same observations, and people I speak to and ask this question to, that's the same thing. Now, it feels like society, or whoever's like trying to influence society, is trying to get men to basically be more comfortable with their sort of feminine side, shall we say, and actually open up sooner. I think there's a happy medium somewhere in between, kind of like, where you can still cling on to masculinity and kind of tough things out and kind of be that sort of that role, but equally.
You touched on something there.
Go on, it's all right. We can. The language is always something which can go in different directions.
In touch with their femininity, I think the role is to just accept that it's not, talking to people isn't masculine or feminine. It's just a part of humanity.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think I know what you mean, but I'm not sure if I agree. That's all right.
That's fine. But like when you talk about the societal constructs and gender of masculinity and femininity, obviously some I think are informed by biology. Yep. And of course I'll always have my self-question of that. I've got no authority on it.
They're not constructs.
I've not done the research myself. I think there are a lot of it is constructs, of course, based upon societal roles and that kind of stuff. But I think talking to people and getting help underpins all of it. Yeah. It has to, because we can all get cancer, we can all break a leg. Yeah. That kind of thing is totally devoid of any kind of gender.
I can't get ovarian cancer.
No, you can't. You can't, that's true. But again, I think that still underpins all of it. You're right. But I don't think it is a specifically masculine or feminine thing.
And there is clearly, and always has been, like a sort of continuum, hasn't there? In terms of like, yes, feminine, masculine, and then and most of us sit somewhere in between all that basically as well. But if it's a construct, it's a construct. But if you don't identify things that are more masculine or identified that way or more feminine, then it's actually difficult. How do you even differentiate between people other than biologically? Like, the tendencies to go in certain directions are quite well known psychologically, aren't they? So and the other thing, if men are turning up, like with a whole barrage of problems and actually quite close to crisis, it sounds like that's obviously often the case. What's your starting point then? And so on.
That's a totally different kettle of fish, isn't it? Because it's no longer like, okay, how do we work through this uncomfortability and set you some goals and get up every day and focus on them things? It's genuinely survival, isn't it? Yeah. It's genuinely what I find difficult, and just to kind of jump in on what you guys are talking about there, is that we can't ignore gender differences. We can't ignore the biological impacts. Equally, there's individual differences, and we have to be okay that one thing works for one person, one thing works for another. We might find that women genuinely talk more in society. Again, it's a stereotype. As somebody who's genuinely a gobshite and always been a gobshite, reaching out and saying to somebody, I'm struggling, I need help, is the hardest thing for me. And I'm a female. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I've got so many friends, but actually and I guess we play these roles. I've gone off on a tangent. Right. I guess we play these roles of being the helper. So when you are that and you kind of are a supporting wall for so many people, then when you need the support to then be like, hey guys, you're going to have to take your ladders off my wall for a little bit because I need some support here. That's a big deal. Yeah. So in terms of the whole getting back to gender, men, crisis, I think we also need women who are men's health advocates too, and to be able to open up these conversations with men, because, and this might just be my experience, but I find men talk to me on a personal level much easier. Maybe it's the nurturingness, I don't know. And I get it's what works for everybody, isn't it? Like some people will go on Gareth's Walk and talk and get what they need as a guy. Some people really need some nurturing and a safe space to offload. Other people need, I don't know, work with their PTSD or whatever it is. But ultimately, it's kind of really encouraging people to reach out as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's something I always try and kind of preach to people. Obviously, you run your group, I've got a group, there's Walk and Talk, there's the Link Charitable Trust, there's all sorts out there. I'll never ever arbitrarily advocate for my group. I'll say do the research, because it's such a deeply personal thing. I don't want numbers for the sake of numbers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I do. And
it's not a popularity contest.
Because I've got one foot in public health, which is population health. So, and it looks at like men's data.
Yeah.
But recognises that equally the nuance of that is that men aren't a homogenous group. Basically. It's like they're not all the same. So, and that's important, because actually the whole journey of like well-being, improvement, self-improvement is about subjectivity. It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
So the idea of saying, this is where mental health and evidence is, it's a tricky one, because like the gold standard is CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. Okay, but it won't work for everyone. And it might be kind of an ice bath, regular breath work, a good routine, meditation, and occasionally having contact with a counsellor or having a friend to check in with regularly is enough.
It's funny you say that.
It's finding your own way.
I've had CBT before, and obviously you both know I had crisis point a couple of months ago, really badly. And like you said, it's survival. Yeah. I called in work, got a signal from the doctors, told everyone I knew, and just hibernated, and it was pure survival. I didn't know what to do. But CBT didn't work for me. Right. What you just said the second time, all of that is stuff I regularly do now. Cold showers, breathing, meditation, walks in nature, speaking to my friends every now and then, seeing my family. That sees me through better than CBT does, and I don't think it can ever replace therapy.
I'll get in person for a second. I remember asking you during that a couple of months ago, are you okay? And I kept checking with you, and what you reminded me, and it wasn't, you basically reminded me that the reason you reach out is because that's part of your strategy. You just let people know that you're struggling at that time. And actually that is literally part of your coping. Yeah. And it wasn't so I would get in touch with you regularly. Actually, you were getting in touch with me as regularly, just still to check in.
It makes it feel less like a dirty secret.
Yes.
If I tell people, it makes it feel less shameful. It's out there. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I try to be so open with it is you see so many motivational speakers after the fact. I went through a really rough time. Now look at me, I've got a Ferrari. Because they all get Ferraris after you get cured of depression.
Dicks.
Yeah.
Or whatever. They're probably lovely.
Yeah. But nobody...
They probably are. That's the shittier thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a Ferrari and I'm lovely.
But you know that typical success story. But getting through depression isn't glorious. It's a fucking slog. Yeah. It's a dirty, awful thing. And when you come out the other side, there's no flag you plant on a hill. I've done it. Bosh. Yeah. It's a grind. And no one ever shows what it's like to be suicidal at the point at which they're suicidal. And that's why I've tried to be so open and honest about it. It helps me, of course.
Well, I think back to that old adage that like basically men will try and like often will try and like tough it out themselves, and shame's a big part of that as well. Yeah. So we know that, don't we? That like men need to be sort of more courageous and be more comfortable with the shame, and actually that's a big deal. But it's about trying to find that balance. The balance is only with them as an individual. The bottom line is if you're suffering and you try and suffer it alone, you're probably fucked.
That's, and again, for the people who haven't heard, I've told you both before, when I was 32, I lived just outside London, and I used to come home like every couple of months and see my friends, and I've always been depressed. For as long as I can remember, I've always suffered with my mental health, and it starts to make sense now. Home life wasn't the best. Dad was a little bit drinky every now and then. It was just unstable and blah, blah, blah. All of that makes sense now, but at the time I didn't know. I was just an angry kid, a really angry kid. I used to beat people up, my sister, people at school. I was a bully by any other word. And then I grew up, and when I was 19, it was a cry for attention. It wasn't a real suicide attempt. It was a cry for attention, but it's just as valid. I didn't know what was going on, and I was terrified. I never felt that before. Fast forward, 32, I'd come home and see my friends, and they didn't know about it because when I came home, I wanted to enjoy being with my friends. I didn't want that to be another. I wanted those 2 days just to be pure and good and enjoyable and take some good energy back. So then you've seen the video. When I tried to kill myself when I was 32, like that, and it wasn't a full-blown attempt. I got really close, but the resignation was bad enough. The resignation that I knew I was going to do it. And then, anyway, nobody knew. I'd hidden it all these years without realising, and as open as I am about it, I still realise now that I've got such big walls up just through years and years of societal programming or shame or what have you.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody knew, and it was a shock to everybody. But
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, sadly, often too late.
Yeah. You always see that thing. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
After the fact, when they find somebody or something's happened, nobody knew. It's
another
terrifying.
reminder, isn't it, that a lot of blokes and women. But the other thing to remember, someone reminded me recently when I was talking about men's health, is that there's a lot more women who have failed suicide.
We had this conversation.
Suicide, was it you?
Yeah, last week.
So failed suicide attempts, and it got me thinking again. It's like, because I always say you can't do men's health without women's health and vice versa. It's like they're obviously interconnected, and it's always, there's a lot of attention and still needs that attention about the number of, it's roughly 3/4 of men that kill themselves, right? Okay, successfully. Men choose more violent methods and so on. But
it's roughly 3/4 of people that kill themselves are men.
Are men? What did I say?
Roughly 3/4 of men kill themselves.
Holy shit! Thank you.
That's a big statistic.
Just slightly. So yeah, thank you for that. So and obviously there's an increased number of women choosing more violent methods, but way more than men attempt suicide, and that in itself, like, it's quite shocking to think about as well. But they tend to be less violent, and they tend to be more. I'm not going to use the term cries for help, but they call them parasuicides. Like, it's actually designed to attract attention.
I've got no problem with that.
Yeah, well,
like there's a stigma on that.
What do you mean?
In that,
what do you mean you've got no problem with that?
Obviously,
I've got a fucking problem.
I know, I've got a problem with that.
It's shitty, obviously, but what I mean is, there's a stigma on it. Oh, it's just a cry for help.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
It's never just a cry for help, though, is it?
Oh, it's just a cry for help.
It's never just for attention.
Of course it's not.
Somebody screaming out because they are in pain and they need help. I think, I know I'm saying, like, men, this is like, there's no shame in men need to act quicker and tell us more, but tell us more quickly. But on the other hand, like, how I view it is, I don't know anybody who I cross in my day, whether they're suicidal or not. Like, imagine if everybody walked about with billboards above their head that said, I'm having suicide ideations. I'm thinking about killing myself. How would you behave with that person? How would your behaviour differ? How would your communication with other people be any different? Same as if you had, like, everyone had their own traumas, their experiences, their abuse, anything they'd gone through tattooed all over their body. Would your behaviour and communication be different towards them? Because we are all walking bags of trauma. We don't know who's suicidal and not. And if you look at the statistics of how many people genuinely have suicide ideations and think, it would be better and easier if I wasn't here, you cross their path. Like, you have a duty. I know we don't know this, but we have a duty to be kind to one another.
I totally agree.
And it's simple. My thing is, all of this shit is much simpler than I believe we make it out to be. Like, you were talking about the cold ice baths and CBT, and what happens if people are just looking for a place of belonging and a place of connection, and the community and the society that we've kind of grown into is created this individualistic lifestyle where we're disconnected. And yes, we've got phones, but that's disconnecting us further sometimes. Yes, it's great to connect, but I think we need to really get the foundations of humanity right before we start doing the fancy shit.
Well, it's a really good point,
It's really well said. The terrifying thing about, like, it can only really be the shame of that, particularly with suicide, and feeling that and suffering and thinking that other people think you're weak and blah, blah, blah. But that's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just bullshit. It's a human condition, full stop, that sometimes you're going to struggle. And the best of us know that you don't really get anywhere in life without the help of others.
And here's the thing, sorry.
You really don't.
If you are listening to this and you genuinely don't know how to behave or act if somebody comes to you and tells you that you are suicidal, do the homework. Like, learn that, because I get it. It's uncomfortable for you. It's uncomfortable if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'm having suicidal thoughts. I guarantee probably 8 out of 10 people would say, hey, it's okay, it'll be all right. Everything will be fine tomorrow. It's a new day. All that fucking shiny shit. But in reality, if somebody's having suicidal thoughts, be present with them, be there, ring 999 if you need to. That's what they're there for. Take them to A&E. Get professional help, get their support system in place and help them. Like, and if you feel like you need extra training, you can do mental health first aid. Like, people go on first aid
online all the time.
Exactly. People go to first aid courses in case they're with somebody who has a heart attack. I guarantee the stats of you coming across someone who has a heart attack, I'm getting my teeth all muddled up because I'm getting excited and passionate now. The guaranteed stats that you will come across somebody who has a heart attack is much lower than you come into contact with somebody who is suicidal.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
do the first aid training in mental health if you don't feel equipped to deal with somebody being suicidal in your company.
For the I was going to say the Tees Training Hub offer like that
Awesome.
that training funded basically.
Yeah.
So it's well worth having a look at. But there's
Absolutely.
online courses through the
Just
Men's Suicide Prevention.
Google it, free mental health first
absolutely.
aid course.
I feel like I've got ranty, but it's
That's
just because
great.
I'm
No
passionate
problem.
and
Absolutely
it's
fine.
important.
We'll want more of that.
So
But
Rory,
on
So
that
Rory.
point, yes.
Yeah. Over to you.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Rory, you can have 2 minutes now.
Cheers,
Let Rory have
Rory,
it.
you go.
I forgot
Thanks.
something really important.
Yeah. So when you were saying
He's shaking. He's so excited.
when people
That's great.
when people feel suicidal, don't just give them the shiny shit. I've had 3 occasions in my life where I've either tried, cried for help, or resigned myself to the fact they want to be here. One when I was 19, one when I was 32, and one this year, 36, just before my 37th birthday. Am I 37? Yeah. God, I'm fucking old.
Keep going.
Yeah.
This is good. This is good.
And when I was 19 and 30, the first and the third, the second one.
Are we talking about old money now?
Yeah. The second one,
6
when I was
and 4.
32, is when I lived in Basingstoke.
Oh,
and like
I'm
I
so
said,
confused.
it's an absolute slog.
Okay.
Like, I put that video out. For people that don't know, I had a breakdown. I got very close to killing myself. And I recorded a video mid-breakdown, crying a lot, just saying, I don't want to do this anymore. Not life, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I put it out online, I showed my friends, and no one had seen it before. But after that, it's not like some glorious thing. I've beat this. You still got to live on your own. It's still, you wake up not wanting to be there every morning for months. But anyway, the first and the third. So I was 19, I was 37. The 2 times where I felt better was when I tried to slash my wrist when I was 19, and I called my friend Chris, and he just came round and he hugged me, and I cried my eyes out. That was it. And Chris is 5'4", and he sat on my bed and I curled up on his knee like.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was like a
like a
Doberman
baby.
curled up on a chihuahua. It was the daftest thing you've ever
It's
seen.
like, have you seen the film Elf where he sits on his dad's
Exactly,
knee?
that's exactly what it was like.
That is exactly what it
Yeah,
was like.
you
He
probably
was wearing
know
an
him.
elf suit.
I'm not naming one here, but you,
was.
I think you know him.
Okay, tell me after.
Yeah, he's comes up there on me, but he just put his arm around me. That was all I needed. He didn't try and fix it. He didn't try and solve the problem because he can't. He just put his arm around me.
That's when you know you got a good mate.
Absolutely. And then my mum, a few weeks ago, it was the Queen's funeral, and it ended, and I was going through a horrible.
Shit, hold on a sec. The Queen died.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
No one told
This is
you.
what happens when you don't watch the news.
Have you unsubscribed to the newsletter?
Fuck's sake. Right, go on.
Yeah.
You just...
And yeah, it was a really, really rough time. And I just let my mum was a proper royalist, real royalist.
Okay.
She went to
We're
Windsor
all
like during
smiling
the
at
coronation
that,
and
like,
stuff. Like she's proper traditionalist.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
This is what it
whatever.
Each their own.
Yeah.
Exactly. Totally.
So I didn't say anything during the whole funeral. I just sat and watched it. And to be honest, the pomp and the circumstance of the whole thing was kind of cool. Whatever you think of the royals, like watching some guy. I was watching Charles the whole way through. He's just a boy grieving for his mum. That's all it was.
And
I know
it's
he's
watching history unfold in your eyes, isn't it?
Yeah, and I let it go, and then I told my mum, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I felt awful. And she was like, give me a hug. So I went to hug her, because my mum's like 5'2", she's teeny tiny, 5 foot maybe. So I was wrapped my arms around her. And she's like, no, not this time. And she put her arms around me, and I curled up in her lap, and I bawled for like 5 minutes. And for those few minutes, those times when I'm hugged, it almost feels like they can't fix my problems, but I'm better suited to handle my problems, if that makes sense. And if that's always there, if just for that few minutes I feel better, I can always come back and do that again.
Do you know what it is? It's just, for me, it's like, I couldn't give it. It's like, if people are like using healthy ways of coping, I genuinely couldn't give a shit. But there'd be people who, if they were around that, they'd feel awkward.
Yes.
And that's just even that interaction. So blokes being around it might go, oh, it's a bit awkward. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, there's something in that as well.
Yeah,
like I wouldn't be, but you see it, you see that awkward. And so that just, like, I'm quite a huggy guy now. And in fact, I probably always have been, to be honest. But my own expression wasn't always confident enough to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean?
I'll always slap a hug on someone.
Yeah, well,
I
it
love a
depends,
hug.
doesn't it? But yeah, you go all the way back. But that, what there's something in there about kind of different people and kind of what they're comfortable with, what they're not. And obviously you're bearing your soul there and sharing that stuff, and that's actually fantastic to be able to do that, and hopefully a good lesson of those who might be listening to blokes as well. But again, that's just one example of one behaviour.
Yeah.
And the other time it could be you could be hanging by hooks from a ceiling.
Yeah.
And everyone would be like, holy fuck, that guy's fucking nuts. That's hardcore as fuck. How does he do that? Actually, I've just realised we were going to... So actually we mentioned this.
Yeah.
Because you made a list at the end of
last year.
About things you wanted to do. I don't know if the kickflip's that one yet, but it was about 15 things on that.
in that cupboard right there.
Is it?
Yeah.
So
I'll put it together.
No shit. So there's like 15 things you had on this list, and one of them was a suspension.
A body suspension.
Suspension. And this is basically like 6 hooks, I think.
Yeah.
That go in
For
from
me, it was,
shoulder...
So they go
waist and
they space them equally down your back.
They look like meat hooks. This is like Texas Chainsaw
They are meat hooks, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get them soon. He's got to put them in acetone. He's got to put them in perspex, acrylic, because some dumb fuck he gave them his hooks as a souvenir one time, and he tried to pierce himself with them.
Oh my God!
But for reference, the hooks are reasonably blunt.
Yeah.
You put the hook in the back of a piercing needle and thread the whole thing through. But this dumb fuck tried to pierce himself with the hook.
If he's listening, by the way, we haven't done an IQ test on him, but he might have misunderstood the instructions.
For reference, I'm a dumb fuck. I might be a mathematician, but I'm a dumb fuck. Anyway.
We can be judgmental on this one, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, judge away. I couldn't give a shit.
No.
It was,
Judge away.
So yeah, I set this list, and I've always tried to push myself. And going back to happiness, I realised not long ago, when I did Ben Nevis, all of my happiness is based upon...
How is Ben? Is he all right?
It's massive.
But
put some weight on. That joke. Yeah.
I'm full of it.
Don't sound so surprised.
No, that's right.
This one.
Yeah.
Just because I'm
This
£300, do you think I can't? You know what I mean?
I didn't say anything.
Your face said it all.
Just burns more calories.
You did Ben Nevis. We'll listen to it back. We'll emphasise. You did Ben Nevis.
Parachute onto the top, and then you just walk down.
I'll tell you what. I was coming down Ben Nevis, and I was fucked. I was ruined, right? Like, I had to crawl pretty much. I'm £300. I've had an ACL replacement.
It's much easier to walk.
Could have gone on your bum.
Yeah. But
Slid
there was a Harrier jet. They were doing manoeuvres. I don't know if there's a base around there or something, but there's a jet that came over doing manoeuvres, and for a split second I was so jealous. Like, look how fucking quick he's getting down there. Like, he was over and down. I was like, it took me 9 hours to do the whole
exactly
thing.
what you mean. Yeah.
Raging anyway.
But he's missing all the views.
Yeah.
Well, not all the views.
Not all the views. But yeah, that's Ben Nevis. The view from Ben Nevis, that little photo there.
Oh, wow.
Greatest day ever. Unreal.
Above the clouds.
Yeah. But anyway, I did this list, and I realised all of my happiness came from accomplishment, and it was really fleeting and temporary. I realised that in the flotation tank. We'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
And I realised that once I've done something, yes, I feel great, and then it's gone the next day, and I've got to do something again and again and again. So my happiness wasn't based upon this level that I'd reached. It was constantly pushing myself.
Yeah.
But along with that was this ceaseless level of anxiety of trying to do the next thing and next thing and next thing. So I've tried to knock it on the head. But yeah, for this year, I'd set this list of fairly extreme things. Some of them was pretty basic. Learn how to bar spin a BMX, learn how to kickflip a skateboard. I'm £300 a skateboard.
One of the 10 keys to happiness is try new things.
I totally agree.
And in brackets it says keep learning.
Did you ever go to the Body Worlds exhibit in Amsterdam?
I've been to the Amsterdam one. I went to the one that was in the Toon once.
Toon in Newcastle.
Yeah, that was
Have
awesome.
you been to the Body Worlds exhibit?
No, I don't know what it is.
It's, remember that
plasticated
German,
bodies.
That German
guy who wears a black hat and doesn't look at all like a
he's a German physician, but he looks like a cowboy. He wears like a cowboy hat. He did
you
the
being
live
polite
autopsy on Channel 4 like 15 years ago.
So he's a German cowboy.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Genius.
Plenty around.
Anyway, but he did this exhibition of plasticized cadavers. So he takes all the skin off them, and then he kind of he sets them, then molds them. So it's real bodies.
It's like a process that replaces the cells
with
plastic, and then they remove, and then they slowly remove the human
tissue
away from it, and then what's left is a perfect replica of the cell. And so there's actually one bit of it where you've got all the
blood vessels,
and the nerve endings, like the thousands and thousands of miles.
It's fascinating,
and you see it all in detail, and it's just like holy. So there's a shape of a human body with just all the capillaries, all the blood vessels, the whole damn thing.
Wow,
and it's freaky.
It's
incredible.
It is grim because it's real, but it's very
friends
interesting.
with you, Rory. I'm used to grim.
Why we mentioned Body Worlds?
Because when I went to both times I've been, I was in Amsterdam, and it was like 5 years ago I went the first time, but I went again in September, I think. And they had it was the science of happiness. And one of the things they talk about is humans aren't supposed to, or not, I say supposed to, humans aren't designed to reach a steady state and then that's okay.
Yeah.
You get happiness by the next level and the next level. That's why billionaires become billionaires. That's why athletes become athletes. It's
nothing lasts forever.
No, nothing.
Doesn't matter what the hell it is, actually.
No, so it's
all
that constant
fleeting.
striving for the next thing.
And that's interesting in all sorts of different ways, like the perspective of basically how should I feel at this particular time? Is it okay to feel like this? And actually, you know, how riding the highs as much as you do the lows. You've talked about this on one of your videos as well, or one of your things about conversations. What do you do, Helen, to keep yourself like above water, quite literally? But is it like in terms of your own? What are your things that you do to keep yourself happy?
Shit like this.
Shit like this.
Yeah. I think that how I kind of see it is I have things that are kind of non-negotiables that I'll do that I guess don't keep me happy but keep me afloat. In reference to your first part, like obviously meditation, going to the beach and doing the cold water shit, like all the stuff. Go on, having a shit. No, I don't have a shit in the sea. Just to clarify.
But don't worry, because
I've seen some things. Like,
I was going to say, I'm fairly sure that a lot of sewage is pumped in the sea.
They won't know it's an extra turd floating around.
But you do. It's not obvious because you're saying it, and a lot of people won't know. But you're doing meditation.
Yes, cold water therapy.
How frequently do you do that? Do you do it at home as well as the beach?
So I'll do it at the end of every shower.
Right, yeah. Me too.
I didn't used to. I'm an absolute fanny. Like,
so once a week then.
The cold is not my friend. Like, genuinely, if someone had said to my husband in January that I would have been going in the North Sea like 4 times a week in the summer, if not more, he would have literally like bet our house on it, and I'd be homeless right now. Ben, who set up the group, literally invited me down in January. Was like, "Will you come do meditation at the beach?" And I was like, "Yeah, sound, but I ain't going in the sea. No fucking way you'll ever get me in the sea." When there was like 4 of them there, we'd done a meditation, they went in the sea, and I thought, you're off your fucking head. Genuinely. I went back again in April, and that was the first time I went in the sea, and then it's just addictive, isn't it? And it's really that feeling, and you're talking there about achieving something and getting up and wanting to do it again, and from a biological point of view, if we think of that kind of surge of the feel-good hormones, the next day you wake up and you're like, that felt good. How can I get more of that again? Yeah. So for me, it's implementing stuff like the cold showers that give us them little hits. Yeah. And we're getting it from a real healthy source rather than bad habits. Or we're thinking about like floods of dopamine. Every time you get a like on your Instagram photo, you're getting a dopamine hit. Yeah, so people keep posting and you're stuck in this rat race. And yes, social media can be great, but equally, if you're spending all your time getting dopamine hits on social media, what are you doing with your life?
And this is in, what's in it? It's a group in Redcar. It meets on is it a Tuesday morning?
Tuesday morning and a Wednesday
5
evening.
In the morning, is that right?
Yeah,
5 in the morning at South Gare.
Yes.
Quite far away up, quite near the...
near the lighthouse.
Near the lighthouse. Okay, so you could park up there and sort of 5:30 in the morning, and then you'll see a group of people on the beach.
Yeah, you will never, ever see me at that group.
Yeah, well, no, actually...
5:30.
Yeah. I just said to my partner, I said, like, look, obviously we do these things. She's in the sea every day pretty much. And I've got a barrel at home that I jump in. And she goes down to the stoppers. I've been going down 3 days a week. And once I'd stopped training for Ironman, that's the way I started doing the dips again. And then I've bought a barrel from the Barrel Man in Wales. And
the Barrel Man.
The Barrel Man. Well, they're like a barrel dealer, basically, getting like, like whiskey supplies and so on. I think they're one-use barrels, and then they've been modifying them, lads in the yard.
You have to drink all the whiskey to be able to use the barrel.
That's the beauty. If you like whiskey, right, and you get this barrel, it's still got like a smell of whiskey.
You're licking the barrel.
So I'm in the barrel going, and it's like 7 in the morning.
Speaking of whiskey,
you're like, I might just, you get a bit.
That's your alarm.
By it as well.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, let me stop my alarm.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. We'll just carry on. It's fine.
Yeah, speaking of whiskey.
So the barrel, they put a seat in it. They've got a tap on the bottom and all that. And you just climb on in. I put like a sort of steps going up to it. And I can be in there for up to 10 minutes. And I've had it between 9 and 12 degrees. And that's ideal. I usually put my headphones on and listen to some like music or whatever while I'm in there. It's quite nice. But I come out feeling...
What do you listen to?
Oh, actually, mostly meditation. So I go in and actually meditate.
Yeah,
one of John Lee's meditations.
Two birds, one stone.
Exactly. So it's like if you're stuck for time.
That's how I do my breathing. I do Wim Hof breathing a couple of times a day. And that's how I meditate. I make sure I don't think of anything. I keep my phone away from me. Yeah. I don't touch a thing. It's my little turn off time.
No, it is medicine. Particularly when I go in the sea, and we're about 2 minutes in, and then all the blood starts to return to your skin, and it honestly feels like someone putting like a warm blanket around you, even though you're in this freezing cold water, and it's like, you know, and that happened. I noticed that happened quicker and quicker and quicker. It's like equally the commitment to going in the water. It just doesn't. I don't hold back. People walking and going, oh, you know, I'm just walking. Soon it's up to my waist, I just sort of dive in and just start.
I'm like
swimming.
a fat Labrador. I'm just in there. Splash! I'm in.
Yes, good man.
Jump in back first.
Yeah. But it's that sympathetic nervous system, or like I said, all the chemistry. It's all going on, right? And it's just awesome. And it come back. But that's for me. That's for you. That's for you as well. It's not for everyone. And other people, some people, it could be it could be doing the little colouring thing. But so it could be, I don't know, it could be knitting, it could be kind of exercise, which is a huge hit for a lot of people.
This is one of the things I try to preach to people. Like, obviously, I'm not a professional in terms of qualifications. I've got the group, but it's just a community looking after itself, essentially. But obviously, I get asked for advice. And the one thing I tell people is, after you're stable, if you're unstable, call the doctors, do what you need to do. But after that, find a healthy way to escape reality, whatever it is. Don't turn to drugs, don't turn to alcohol, whatever it is. Have a healthy way to escape reality, whether it's, like you said, computer games, knitting, fucking walking, meditation, whatever it is. Just find some healthy way to get your head out of what you're thinking about at that moment. It's absolutely essential.
Fair comment.
Yeah.
And then the opposite too, because I think we need to find a healthy way to be an acceptance of reality.
Of course, absolutely.
Like full-on acceptance. So I get it, like the both sides of it. I love visualization. I don't know what accent that was.
Let's just call it Viz for sure.
Are you from Redcar?
Are you from Redcar? Yeah, Redcar, Alabama.
Just a woman of many accents.
Yeah.
I didn't realise till today.
You've been watching like too many episodes of Sex and the City or something like that. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I've been practising it. I don't know what the fuck I was saying now, but something useful, obviously. Acceptance always. That's it. It's acceptance. Like, yes, get out your head, but also when we're trying to escape reality, sometimes we really need the opposite.
I agree.
Sometimes we really need to just be in full-on acceptance.
The two sides of the same coin for me. For me, it's like depression and anxiety are normal biological processes. Do you know what I mean? Anxiety when you stood on the edge of the cliff, depression when something bad happens, but you're supposed to get over it in a healthy way. But it's when it becomes chronic that it's the problem. So you can think about your reality and try and accept it, but when it gets really like full on, sometimes just breaking that cycle by meditating or doing something is really healthy. But like doing that line or picking up that bottle, that's not the way to go. And actually, it's understandable if people do. That's not a judgment call. Just
escaping it, and everyone's doing the best they can with the tools and skills that they've got. Day.
If you, if like people are kind of thinking about what different ideas of like what other people do that works for them, and they're just looking for new ideas, there's loads like directories locally, there's support groups locally. There's just loads. There is a lot going on. It's not just about going. The problem is a lot of people go. And I get my back up about this. A lot of people go to the GP.
Yeah.
And actually, Alex Jones, when we spoke to a doctor, told us this, is a lot of people who turn up with mental health problems, they're either asking for one or two things. They're either asking for an antidepressant prescription, basically, or they're asking for a sick note.
Yeah.
And actually, they're quite far on when they're arriving in terms of like the symptoms. I'm a personal advocate for like much more of like a well-being pathway. I want to have, not the question is what is wrong with you, and I want to keep saying to people, like, ask what's happened to them, like what's really going on. And like almost always people have been in a good place at some point, even people who have lived the shittiest like childhood and stuff, like they have those pockets of happiness moments sort of stick out even more. It might be when they went for a walk with their granddad in the outdoors and they kind of got a bit of a liking for the outdoor, well, it could be anything. And I think that's the stuff a lot of people, and I'm very much into empowerment. We have talked about kind of like doing two. Like always kind of remind people that it's like my big thing is about empowerment. It's like we have talked about subjective well-being. It's like people have to find their own journey, but at the end of the day, people have to be empowered, and it is actually on people. It's on you as individuals, isn't it? To a degree, people will get you started and get you supported and keep you supported, but then slowly let go and slowly let you transfer that across and slowly go from there. I think that's just really
that's a very, very double-edged sword, though. I think
it absolutely is. Why?
Because as much as I properly admire people like Cameron Haynes, David Goggins, those people, that don't be a pussy. You can just you just got to want it enough.
What a name! Imagine being christened with that. Is it don't be just? Is that just one word, one name?
Yeah, it's what it's
a pussy.
Yeah, it's like share.
Yeah, don't be a pussy.
Yeah.
What a name!
And it's
maybe they're just confused.
I find that it's great. It's properly inspirational, but it only applies to a very limited part of the whole pathway of getting better from mental health problems.
So it has a place.
100% it does.
Absolutely
of course it does. Inspiration plays such a huge part in getting over mental health problems for me.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. You can give me all the meds, all the meditation, but if I've got nothing to strive towards and nothing to want to become, it's fucked. I really do believe that inspiration and creativity plays a huge part in it. But there's that thing of like, you've just got to want it enough. If you're in the house eating crisps, maybe that person's depressed, maybe they don't know another way, maybe they just can't face the world outside. But we malign those people. It all comes from the same place. Whether you're breaking down in a therapist's office or you're sat on the sofa with a blanket on you eating crisps, you don't know why that person's doing that. They might just be lazy.
That's right.
But you don't know. So that last good, forceful bit of David Goggins' thing, it's great, but you have to have a stable base before you get to that point. You have to have dealt with your trauma.
So what you're saying is, this is it. So for some people, they need very intense support.
Yeah.
And then what part of that is going to be suggesting to them very small, very, very small forward steps that they can do. And for a very depressed person, we've said before, it's like getting the feet on the ground out of the bed and just feeling the feet under, and then looking out the window and then going to the front door and all these sort of progress. Yeah. And then for anxiety, it's like slow exposure, graded exposure. And then when it's ready, then you sort of allow them to sort of make a decision, guide them to it. When they actually do make a decision and do it and actually do activity, then you're in, aren't you? Then you've got a foot in the door and then people can start to realise that actually they get to act in their own power, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, one of the biggest things was lifting weights. Like I said, when I was 32, living in Basingstoke, did something that I'm glad I didn't go through with. And once I got stable, I just hit the gym hard. There was a gym right next door to my building. I hit it hard, lost loads of weight, got in shape. And obviously that I did it really stupidly then, because I replaced all of my mental health treatment with that. Yeah. I didn't address any of the trauma. I didn't go to therapy. I didn't do any of that good stuff. I just lifted weights and it made me feel good.
Yep.
But it was a stick and plaster, because now the chickens have come home to roost. Like, I'm dealing with all of
it was one. How about we say it's something like one piece of the puzzle?
You're right, but I think it is a foundational thing, like Helen said.
No, you're right.
You need to be stable. Yes. Because I was good. Sure. I was lean. I'll show you videos later. I could like do clap push-ups on plates.
The Photoshop videos.
Yeah, them. Like, I used to go and play five-a-side with work, and then I'd go home and go to the gym. Yeah. Like, I was really, really fit. Yeah. And then I snapped my leg, and that was part of the thing, but that's only part.
Anything to get out of doing it.
It would be easy for me to blame that. It was mostly mental health why I'm overweight now. It's got nothing to do with my injury. It's all mental health. Yeah. And if I'd addressed some of the trauma then and dealt with it head on, to be honest, I didn't even know I had trauma back then. And that's another thing. You might say to someone, "Oh, you're just depressed." Yeah, but do they know why they're depressed?
Do they even know they are?
Exactly.
And then back to what Helen was saying about acceptance. The way I think we've covered quite a lot of the ground of like action for happiness of the 10 today. And every time I have a conversation with anyone about mental health, well-being, obviously you get into those areas.
But sorry, to that, before we move on to the point.
That's all right.
Obviously, you guys know my fiance and I broke up earlier in the year. It's been rough as fuck. And going back to the other thing, that's why I've only done 4 of those 15 points on my list this year. I've been in pure survival mode.
That's a lot though, 15.
Yeah, I'll do it next year.
Yeah, okay, well, exactly.
I've totally fucking forgot what I was saying.
Okay, well, when you remember, we'll come back to it.
I just kind of want to summarise in what you were talking about there in your own personal experience and how I view this as a model. This isn't a science model. This is just like my own.
Helen's model.
Yeah, Helen's model. So if anybody takes it after this, I mean, I might have stole it off a scientist if I've read something. It's a continuum. And what you're saying there is that, like, if we're neutral, if I'm okay right now, then I'm at 0. If I'm really struggling with some kind of trauma, mental illness, ill mental health, then I'm in the like -1, -2, -3. If I'm talking about mental wellness and mental health and the positive shit about life, I'm in the 1, the 2, the 3. Yeah. So what you're saying is, if we don't know that you're depressed, like I genuinely, sometimes I'm like, hey, where am I on the score? And ask myself, where am I? Because I might be at -3 and I just haven't realised it because I've been stuck in the minuses for a little bit. It could be that I'm at a 6 and I'm living the dream. But, you know, like if you've got something practical that you can genuinely be like, where am I on the scale? But also, if you are deeply entrenched in trauma and living with trauma triggers and response quite a lot of the time, and you're, I don't know, a -6, yes, you can make all the achievements and goals, but are you ever going to be at a 9 until you've done that and dealt with the mental health? So I think what you're saying there, applying it to my kind of skill and how I visualize stuff, is that it's kind of like we have to get out of the minuses to the 0. That means really doing the work and looking at our mental health and how much of that is impacting on us. To be able to make the achievements, hit the goals, do all the David Goggins shit, because you shot David Goggins in when you're at a -6, and that can have the opposite effect.
I get guilty. I feel ashamed of myself that I can't do that shit.
So yes, place and time for everything, but where are you on the scale? And in terms of personal responsibility, I guess, and this is probably for people that are feeling a bit more self-aware, but what you're exposing yourself to, where you are on the continuum. So if I'm at a -9, the last thing I want to do is scroll social media, because every fucker's living the dream, and that's going to make me feel worse. If I'm at a 3 and I feel quite happy with myself, I could scroll all day and it doesn't impact my emotions whatsoever. Does that make sense?
100%, and that's what I was going to say. The thing I forgot, my fiance and I broke up earlier this year, and like I said, the chickens have come on to roost with respect to mental health. But years ago, I was 21, left for uni, and within like a year's period, like 3 of the worst things that ever happened to me happened. So my parents broke up. That's nothing to do with me, but you know, it was I didn't have a home to go back to from uni. My girlfriend at the time, we had a really tumultuous relationship, really like volatile. We never hit each other, but that doesn't matter. We screamed at each other. We smashed things. It was fucking volatile. And when I moved to uni, we were just supposed to be fun before uni. And I got to uni and I just panicked. I'd never been away from home before, and I needed someone to hold on to. And I called this girl, and we were just terrible for each other, but that was something bad happened there. But then my nephew died, so within the space of a year, and I remember I was at a hotel after a UFC with this girl, and we were on off all the time, and something happened. I'll not say it. She might know who she is. There's no shame, there's no hard feelings. It was just an event that happened in my life. But it was a few days before my nephew had died, literally like 4 or 5 days before. So I came home from uni, and he was a stillborn baby, so I went to the hospital, and he was just there in the corner of the room. And that's a fucking hard thing. Like, I never got over that. And then I remember this thing happened at the hotel with my ex-girlfriend, and I felt a snap. I felt something go. I didn't do anything. I didn't snap. Rah. I was around a lot of UFC fighters. I would have been really ineffectual. But I felt this mental break. And from that point on, I was single for 10 years and celibate for 9 of them. Like, I never, ever got over that thing. And then I came up here. I met my now ex-fiance, and the
should have become a monk.
Yeah. The chickens have come out to roost. In terms of mental health, I didn't address any of that shit. But to your point, I didn't realise I was depressed.
That's it.
All through my relationship, that was the reason it ended up breaking down eventually. And I'm not going to go into details of name or anything like that. But
somebody inside.
That's why I broke down. Poor mental health, and I didn't know I was depressed, literally. And as I don't think I'm.
What do you do with that? I mean, like literally. I mean, there's an army of men out there and women who basically their issue is they don't recognise when there's something going on, and so I mean, it's all very well and good talking about kind of. We always talk a lot about kind of past that point of services, and services are good, services are bad, and what you can do for yourself, what you can't. But if you don't even recognise, and you're so stuck in a cycle, you don't even recognise yourself. I think it's quite rare. I don't know, maybe rare, but I think it's less often that people recognise it in themselves, see it, like properly lands. I think other people raise it to them in some way, shape, or form, as it, or there's a reflection of someone else's. Like that's be another person, a connection that's going on to reflect it back over. Then they notice, and then it's a case of then they've still got to take a decision of, well, I'm going to get over the shame. I'm going to either talk to someone or I'm going to do something about it. But recognizing it is just like such a fucking huge thing.
I'm pretty swift. That's my meditation alarm going off.
Is it?
Yeah.
Time to meditate.
Yeah. So there's I'm pretty switched on. Like I said, I journal, I meditate, and coming from a little working town in the northeast, I felt like a dick doing that, but I did it anyway.
But more and more popular now.
Of course,
That's good.
And I've done this for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Even someone that's switched on as self-analytical as me, I had no fucking clue I was depressed. I thought I was like low-level, normal depressed. I didn't realise how entrenched it was. Like on a day-to-day basis, right? Like I said, I've had some cold and flu virus, and because I haven't been able to leave the house for a couple of weeks, it's not hyperbole.
Yeah.
My suicidal ideation came back.
Yeah.
Like that straight away. I'm unstable, and I had no idea. There was no indication. I thought I had really bad anxiety, and I've been getting treatment for that. I had no idea how depressed I was. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. So, like I said, if someone is analytical and not switched on, like I'm fucking Tony Stark, but like self-analytical and willing to embrace those things as me, didn't notice it. How are Les and Tracy down the road going to do?
You've ruined it now. All I'm doing is looking at you in an Iron Man outfit.
A big Iron Man outfit.
With the mask open and going, nah,
the Hulk smasher.
It's not working for me, that.
Big heavy one.
I think your fucking beard would get caught in all the electronics.
It would, yeah.
I mean?
Should we invite Les and Tracy in for a cuppa?
Yeah.
I can imagine it closing and then little bits of beard sticking out between the metal.
Yeah.
And it's going like, the fucking beard's hurting.
Like an Argos Iron Man.
Yeah, Argos Iron Man.
Pound shop Iron Man.
That's going to be the name of my first rap album, Argos Iron Man. But you get my point.
Yeah.
Like, how are normal working class people, and I think working class is a thing.
Yeah, of course.
How are they supposed to know? How are they supposed to ever break out of that cycle? How are they going to know that they're depressed? They might just think that's what life is.
I mean, the language as well, like, just struggling. Like the depression, anxiety, and all these other terms and everything. It's like, just like, say it how it is.
Yeah.
I'm struggling, I'm feeling tearful, I'm upset. It's like, I can't do what I can normally do. I can't concentrate. I can't, it's like...
And also, sorry, just told you for then I was like, oh. And also, on the other side is if you're with somebody and you're genuinely worried about them, don't be afraid to say, I'm having suicidal thoughts.
Yeah. Exactly.
No need to beat about the bush. Like, if they're not, then you're not going to suddenly give them that idea. No. But actually, by just being upright and straight. Yeah.
Have you ever, I've been doing that several times in my life now, but I remember the first time, it was after I'd been trained in mental health first aid and to become an instructor in mental health first aid that I've done for 12 years now. And it was only a week after doing the course that I was having a conversation with someone. First time I was supporting someone, and I started chatting and I asked them the question direct. And I worded it in a way like, it was something like, you're not thinking about doing something to hurt yourself or end your life, are you? Just direct, because the course tells you, doesn't it, very clearly, that it's a safe question to ask. In fact, it opens people up, and it bloody works every single time I've done it. It still surprises me when it happens. It's like how willing people are to do it, but you have to ask them, and that's the thing that changes, is you have to ask them. Yeah. And if you don't, by asking it, it's almost like strips the shame away, because you're going, and you're
giving them that opportunity.
It's just something I know that people can do and feel like, and
there's a reciprocal relationship there. Yeah. A trust-based reciprocal relationship. If somebody has the balls to get over their fear to ask you, please try your best to tell them the truth on the other way back as well, because you might say, oh no, I'm fine, but inside, I did that for years.
And don't take it away from them, that power. If they want to get help, they do. And you can lead a horse to water and all that kind of stuff, but if you try and force someone through, like, that's a really bad idea as well. Recognise that, kind of like the fact that talking,
it's always a bad idea. If you can see someone's really struggling, they're just not wanting to do it, could you not just say, you've got to go to the doctor? Could you not force it to? This is just a hypothetical, I don't know. But I can see a situation whereby you get some stubborn people that don't want to do it, or they don't feel like they can do it.
There's it's a good point. There's a very clear demarcation, which is, if you think someone's more at risk to themselves or others, then you break confidentiality. And actually, the only people that have got the power to put someone, like, to section someone, which is a horrible term, to get them to hospital, is the police. Yeah. Which in itself is probably, it's a bit of an odd one, but it is what it is, isn't it? Because you have to basically take them against their will, really. Yeah. Most people who are ill or in pain don't need permission to take them to hospital. It's like, stop the pain now, it's a very different thing.
Yeah, and that, I've been on both sides of the coin. Right. I'll come back to my stupid bullshit point in a second, but I've been on both sides of that coin. Like I said, at the minute, suicidal half the time. Yeah. Sometimes I get over it, sometimes I don't. I mean, I always get over it because I'm here talking, but anyway. But I've also been on the other side where you're waiting to get that fucking phone call. You're waiting to get that phone call to say they've done it, and it's the worst. So that's why the group I try and run, it specifies that we try and support people who suffer from mental health problems or are close to those who do suffer from mental health problems, because being a partner of someone who does, eventually you're going to suffer from mental health problems, I think.
This is find the light.
Yes, it is, yeah. But I think eventually people who close to people with mental health problems will start suffering themselves. I think it's kind of inevitable to a degree. Maybe not in the same, you can't catch bipolar. But I think, it's there needs to be more support for everybody across the whole spectrum.
Yeah, and that balance between people realising that mental health, I mean, people are used to health being something you defer to your doctor. Like, give me a pill, give me an operation, get me a referral to a specialist, blah, blah. But actually, what the point I'm repeatedly trying to make is that it doesn't matter who you are, actually. There's always something that someone can do to make themselves more resilient, more able to cope with the day-to-day things, their routine, the things that's relevant to them. Yeah. And without that, and if all you do is defer to a pill and therapy now and then basically you're not really fully embracing what it is. I
think therapy is way more important than medication.
That's
just me. I think therapy is essential.
Yeah, well, there would clearly be people who would disagree with that.
I'm fine with that.
And it depends what angle you come in at.
And it depends what medication, of course.
Absolutely.
But I mean, if you go to the GP, we spoke to Dr. Jones. She said people get prescribed.
Dr. Jones.
I've been trying to get that out of my head for a week and a half. Fucking Helen
Alex Jones.
Aqua.
She's called Alex Jones.
She's called Alex Jones.
We were like, were you more like Alex Jones or Alex Jones?
Yeah.
She's like, well, I'm actually probably more like the American Alex Jones.
Yeah.
He's now been fined 900 million, I think.
Yeah. Do you know who Alex Jones is?
No.
He's a conspiracy theorist in the US, and he's one of those like outlandish. He's a lunatic. Like, apparently, he's right more than he's wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
But he was very vocal about the fact he thought that the Sandy Hook school massacre was a hoax.
It's all been through
to
court
pay
and all that,
damages
hasn't it,
to the prize.
I
Anyway,
think that's pretty much that.
Yeah. Anyway,
There's
Dr.
an element
Jones.
of denial about it, wasn't there? I think.
Yeah.
Jones, Dr. Jones.
He That's not a button, by the way, that Helen's pressing. She's doing that every time.
I'm going to record that. That's coming. There was a silent moment.
Yeah.
There.
When we spoke to that person we did the podcast with, she said that people get put on medication just so they can go to work.
Yeah.
It's to stabilise people to go to work.
So there's over 20% of adults, I've said this before, are on antidepressants at the moment in England.
And to that point,
like, what?
I don't know one of my friends and family now. I mean, literally, you guys, all of my friends and family who don't suffer with mental health problems in some way, shape or form. Yeah. The strains and stresses of life for a working class family is going to absolutely blow this country apart within the next couple of years.
I also think we need to turn it on its head a little bit in terms of like, you either suffer with mental health problems or you don't. Like, for me, I view mental health the same as I would physical health. If I stubbed my toe on the way in here, that's suffering with a physical health issue. If I broke my leg tomorrow, suffering with a physical health issue, I'll go to the respective person and get it fixed. If I got a bit of anxiety before I came in here, or I was feeling really anxious this morning, mental health. If I'm in bed tomorrow because I'm crippled with depression and can't get out of bed, mental health. So I kind of view them on this kind of spectrum of the exact same thing. Completely. So I think as a society, we need to challenge our language and be like, okay, sometimes my mental health's pure, sometimes my physical health's pure, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not great. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like in terms of putting ourselves in a box and being like, yes, I struggle with my mental health. Actually, some days my mental health's quite good. Some days it's really shockingly bad. Does that...
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of physical health, I've got really dry skin. It looks like someone poured a bag of oats down my shirt.
My lord!
This is beautiful.
It really doesn't.
I've just brushed all of it off.
I can't see anything.
I can't see anything. Like I feel like you want to look at your body now, Rory.
I'm gonna get a bag. Can I get a bag of oats? Can I get a bag of oats and throw it over you just to prove?
Of course you can. But yeah, my stupid point earlier.
It's probably not a stupid point.
No, it really was. It was just a joke thing. When you talk about getting people committed.
Stupid. Where did we find him?
When you talk about getting people, it's my house. Find me.
Oh, here we go. Oh, it's my house. Next time.
It is my house.
Yeah.
This is
it was my idea. Yeah.
I made you a coffee and a toast.
I know, yeah. Now he owns us.
I know.
Oh, you fuck your hospitality, Rory.
Exactly, yeah.
Sit in my house, eat my food.
You wait till you come out of mine.
Where did we find this dude?
I'm gonna grind your bones to make my bread. Yeah, like watching a film when you talk about people committing people. And it was just a jarring thing watching a film from like the 50s. And I don't think it was set in the 50s, but it was about the 50s. Sorry, I don't think it was filmed in the 50s. I think it was set in the 50s.
Right, okay.
And this guy had a wife who was hysterical, and he just had her committed. Like that was a thing.
Yeah, like a human emotion. And that's it, is when we're talking about there about
back in the days where you could just get your wife
human
committed.
Emotions. I mean, Neil would probably be buzzing if that was still a thing, because I'd be like, see you later, Helen.
They were always solved. It was normal to give a woman just a little clip. That was how it was
Sean
solved.
Connery. I keep that Sean Connery.
Scary, isn't it?
That was, he was just like,
he was so...
sometimes your women just need a little slap.
Man.
Bill Burr does the whole stand-up crowd.
Does,
it's like, it's so cringe.
I was going to say, try that in Dormanstown.
Yeah. He was talking about how men used to be. It's like, oh, Jesus. Yeah, well.
I remember being in the back Alex one time. A fight kicked off. And there was a young lady there who'd been enjoying the powders of the evening.
Christ.
And as soon as the fight kicked off, she ripped her top off and just waded in. She was like the Tasmanian devil.
Why did she rip her top off?
So
like her tits were out?
she had a bra on, but so she didn't get blood on the top. She just top off in there like.
So she was going to carry on a night out afterwards.
Yeah,
so she
she's
was
not
thinking
daft. Not daft. This is a
knock
girl
someone
who's
out
done
here.
that before.
Oh my god.
She's like, last time I got blood all over the kappa.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that was my stupid point. Totally pointless.
But again, in terms of language, like we don't say commit anymore because it's obviously linked to when it was illegal to. And we don't use that terminology anymore. And same thing with emotions. Like my wife's hysterical. Like it's just experiencing a fucking human emotion. And although we're taking the piss a little bit here, like it's a very valid point that we have to be okay with. I don't know what Richie's doing. We have to be okay with everyone experiencing all of the emotions. I think
Totally
you
agree.
said something earlier. I can't even remember what the quote was now. You said something like,
right.
is it okay to be feeling this emotion?
Right.
And on the other side, I would say every emotion is okay. Like,
Yeah,
as in, no
100%.
matter what, like, there is no should I be feeling this.
Yeah.
It's just I am feeling this.
Yeah.
There is no should, shouldn't, right, wrong. It's just the emotion. So, like, if you are thinking about in terms of your self-awareness and am I depressed, actually, how connected are you to your emotions? What are the most emotions that you feel? Is it sadness? Is it frustration? Is it all the kind of things on that end of the spectrum, or is it joy, bliss, happiness, peace? Like, and in terms of becoming self-aware, think of that continuum as like, where am I in terms of my feelings most of the time?
That, I think, is the absolute crux of why more men kill themselves. Because men aren't supposed to feel certain feelings.
So that it comes down to even guilt and shame and so on.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a bit. There was
Shame
a bit.
is a huge thing.
I know, and it's bullshit
I've
because
got
it's a human
little,
emotion.
Yeah.
Like jealousy, shame, guilt, we're not supposed to feel that. Fuck off.
Yeah.
It's a human emotion. It's our body communicating to us, like how you behave, how you act on that.
Yeah.
That's on you. But I'm not being funny. If I'm scrolling on socials, I see someone's on holiday in the Bahamas, of course I'm fucking jealous.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want them to have it, because I want that for me.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not ashamed to be like, hey, I'm jealous.
I'll sort it out.
Oh, cheers,
I've got loads
mate.
of Krugerrands in the garage. I'll keep them sold for you.
Cheers, dude.
Yeah.
But this is it, and it's like everyone should know that every emotion is normal, it's healthy, it's valid. You've got to feel all the feels and be okay with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to that, like, if anyone's seen the Dharma thing, it sounds...
halfway through it at the moment.
Bear with me at the minute. There's a point in that where he tries to tell his dad, I feel like this and I'm all fucked up. And they ignore the red flags.
Yeah, well-
Even to that point, there was nothing wrong with the way he felt. He was a broken toy, for lack of a better phrase.
But is there ever anything wrong with the way anyone
No,
feels?
that's what I'm getting at. So even something as extreme as him, you've always got to be responsible for your actions.
Yes.
You can never, ever negate what he did. It's never going to be like, oh, you weren't well. You've always got to be responsible for your actions. But there was also, he was just a mess. He was a really mentally unwell guy.
If that was true, we wouldn't have the term diminished responsibility.
I don't know if I believe in evil as a concept. There's this thing in mental health of mad or bad.
Yeah.
I think everyone's just a product of their environment. And if your environment doesn't value human life and you end up fucked... I mean, it's such a deep
Nature via nurture.
philosophical and theological debate, but I don't know if I believe in evil as a concept. I don't believe in good as a concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
We haven't identified it, that's for sure. Like
I think everyone's a product of their environment.
talking
And
about
experience.
talking about
But
acceptance.
you have your experiences in your environment, don't you?
Oh, go on.
But that was it.
Go on, we were just about to have a fight over that
Go on.
terminology.
I saw that. I think
Everyone...
Rory thought rip his toe. So I'm going to go back. I'm going back out.
My chest hair's full of chicken grease and all sorts. It's just a mess. I tell you, back when I was
Turns
going
green
to the
and he
gym,
turns into She-Hulk.
it is 2022.
Then starts twerking over
Yeah.
the table. I'm like, oh, this is.
Back when I used to work in I live in hotels. Back when I used to work for IBM, I used to live in hotels. Like you go to clients on the road all the time, and you used to get a certain amount of money, like for meals every evening. You get your expenses paid. And there's one time I was going to the gym loads. I'd lost loads of weight. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm going to do the KFC challenge." And I used to get 25 quid for a meal.
Yes.
And I tried to eat 25 quid's worth of KFC in one evening.
How did that go?
That's a big ass bucket.
Horrifically. It was 2 full buckets of chicken and a side, like. And I got a good portion of the way through it, and I woke up like 3 in the morning,
Sweat.
like pouring a
Yeah,
sweat,
yeah,
and I could
yeah.
still smell and see the chicken.
Get
So I
in
got
there.
up and had some, and then I fell asleep, and I woke up in the morning,
Get in.
and there was like bits of chicken in my chest hair
Get
all
in.
over the bed. I was like,
I love it.
"What is this moment? What have I become?"
We go again.
Yeah.
We go again.
I'm just. I know you got me there. I fucking love KFC. I've definitely like eaten KFC, so I've sweated it out.
God,
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, yeah. The meat sweats, man.
I'm all right. Just give me some more KFC.
Give me the chicken.
Okay, yeah.
KFC gravy as well.
Oh, that's like another level.
Yeah.
We should probably be asking KFC for some sponsorship.
Sponsors KFC. Well, that's a gift to the curse, man. I don't need any more of that. Look.
To the Colonel.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we'll just refer to you as the Colonel instead.
Can we get a hummus sponsorship?
Yeah.
Sabra. They make good hummus, Sabra. Anyway.
God's sake.
What's this become, man? Honestly.
What has this become? What are you talking about? Are you advertising hummus now?
Yeah. I'm not advertising it.
You're definitely a modern bloke, aren't you? You're right in touch with
I won't be allowed back in a jar.
Yeah. I dip my KFC in hummus. That's what will be next. That's what I'm waiting for, like a blend of the two.
You watch South Park? When Cartman eats all the skin off the KFC and leaves the chicken.
You're going to get so modern, you'd be like, you're going to be fucking protesting outside KFC, like, why don't you do hummus with the chicken?
2022, where's the hummus?
Yeah.
Crying
I want
outside.
olives as well. Can I get olives with my KFC?
Yeah.
So,
it's got me this hummus.
When I first started at IBM, like I'm from a dirt poor family. Really, like my dad was a machine shop worker, mum was a nurse, my granddad was a miner, all that kind of shit. But back in the 80s it was.
Was it?
I think so, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Someone's going to get in touch and go.
I'm from a really shitty area. Like a dark, rough,
Get that posh boy off.
awful area. And I moved when I did my degree, got my degree, moved to London for work with IBM. And we went for this, got taken out for a lovely meal one evening. It was in Winchester, like a nice middle class area. Yeah. And I had on my best checky shirt. It's the only thing I had at the time that looked smart.
Yes, go on, lads.
Yeah. And then we got olives for the table, and I'd only ever had olives in like one of those Tesco's thingies, and it was fresh olives, and I bit into it, and I was like, "There's something fucking wrong with this. It's off. It was a stone." And I announced it to the table.
Oh, not the ones with
something
stones
wrong with these.
Why haven't they been
like stones in them?
What
What
do you call it?
Pitted.
Pitted.
Yeah. I made an absolute ball of myself. Yeah.
Nom.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I like the ones. What do you call them?
Little pimentos.
Pimento.
Yeah. I just love an olive.
Yeah.
Again, too much of anything. It's all back to balance, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, bit of KFC, bit of hummus. Well,
I feel like you can have more hummus than KFC, though.
Rub the skin off it.
Yeah.
Rub the skin off the chicken.
So, yeah, it's my best health, yeah. It's good for your mental health, KFC.
Anything you'd like to add to this situation?
I'm just baffled.
Yeah, me too.
You should be
for once in my life, I'm speechless. I should break your nutrition is really important.
Yeah. Let's listen to Helen talking at the recent event about.
So excited.
So actually, we did this event through the South Seas Wellbeing Network recently called Action for Happiness, and we got 10 speakers. 2 of the speakers couldn't make it, and then they could make it, and then 2 more speakers couldn't make it. So we asked them to pre-record. Helen was one of them, and just did a random record. I'm told. It was like
I'm told.
Yeah,
I'm not a liar.
I know. I believe you. I'm told. That's a fact. He did tell me. He said I recorded it and it came in 7 seconds under 8 minutes. There was an 8-minute limit on these sort of talks,
which I'm proud of.
And it was one of each of the 10 areas of what's called the Great Dream on the Action for Happiness. So anyone can Google it. Have a look at their website. This campaign Action for Happiness, and it's brilliant. They've got an app where you can get regular daily reminders of like ideas, and they have different themes every month, a different theme calendar, and all the stuff we've talked about today. Basically, like a good first step if you're in a place where you're trying to sort of find yourself, get a new direction. D is the D in Great Dream. Well, the A in Great is for acceptance. And you did your 8 minutes on acceptance, didn't you? So
7 minutes 50.
Do you mind if I play a quick clip?
Well, I feel like I haven't got a choice to go for it.
Well, I'm going to go for it. Okay, let's have a quick listen to this.
That. So self-acceptance isn't just about accepting the ugly stuff. It's about accepting all of it. And I don't know about you, but I struggle and have struggled accepting good, bad, and ugly. So what I want to tell you today is that this is an ever-going journey. This is something I've consciously been working on for, probably 3 years now. Acceptance of what is, acceptance of self, acceptance of what I can't control. But the one thing that probably helped me to be able to start accepting some of this stuff was that acceptance doesn't necessarily mean approval. So I can accept parts of me that I don't necessarily approve of or I don't particularly like. But by accepting it, it means I'm here. I'm in the reality. This is what it is. I can accept this and still do better. I can accept this and still see that I'm a work in progress. Or maybe it's just I can accept this wonderful part of me that I've been trying to reject because I'm uncomfortable with that. Obviously, our beliefs and our conditioning and our experience in life so far really play an impact on what we feel like we can and we can't accept. And I don't know about you, but I see a lot in the world about self-love. And for me, I can't begin to love parts of me that I haven't yet accepted. Does that make sense? So for me, working on the acceptance and it is what it is doesn't mean I'm going to stay here. Doesn't mean I'm not going to try do better next time. Doesn't mean that I'm not a work in progress. But what it does mean is I'm in acceptance with reality.
Brilliant. Can you hear me that as well?
Yeah, it was awesome.
When you hear yourself back?
Oh, gosh.
It's true. I mean, actually, we cut those points we touched on earlier on. What Rory was saying there about sort of acceptance is kind of like those bits that you're sort of uncomfortable with. That's what you're going to. Some people call it the shadow stuff, don't they? It's like, well, like for me, I had a really odd relationship. Well, no, my old man was quite aggro in lots of ways. Like he was full on kind of, I think looking back, he was quite an insecure man from a previous divorce he had, where it was really, it didn't end like his ex-wife for no reason, for whatever reason, decided overnight to get him to have a bit of a drink, and then disappeared off to the other side of the world with his daughter, and that was it. And that really affected him. I think became quite insecure. You know, it was huge. It got him drunk to sign a form, and then off he went. So it was quite harsh, and I think kind of he lived with a lot of shame about that, possibly, but he was quite insecure. But equally, he was a great educator. So it's like the nuance of kind of like going, oh man, like I had a really difficult relationship with my dad, and like he wasn't there in lots of ways. But he was definitely there in other ways as well. Mm. And that's quite a tough one, really, because the way I felt about that is that he was just a bit of a bastard. And that relationship was quite tough. But I was starting to replicate his behaviour in some ways, like the way he would deal with things was the way I'd observed it. So shouting, and sort of he would do this to my mum all the time and talk over her. And actually, one of the sides of me that I'd decided to sort of, there's parts of him that I wanted to pass on to my son. And I've had open conversation with my son about kind of like, well, these are the parts of him that used to be part of me that I've shed off, basically, and worked hard over a long period of time. As you go into in that video, like you've been talking about like 3 or 4 years on a different journey, and you have to sort of let these things go. But to do it, first of all, you have to accept it. And I think that's, for me, that was how I related to that, to say that there's parts of things that I've adopted from different people that actually I'm trying to chisel off those bits to leave the best bits behind. But they are there, and they're always there. Like I'm always capable of reacting a certain way. I have to be mindful of it and choose not to.
I totally agree with that. And like I said earlier, when I was at school, by any other word, I was a bully, and I've had to accept that. I was racked with guilt for years about everything, and I still am to a degree. It's still my first go-to response.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to accept the fact that I did those things, and I couldn't change it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't change it. I wish I could, but I've just got to accept it and try and redress the balance and do more good than I did bad. That's the only thing I can do.
Just be better than you were yesterday.
That's the thing.
It's just keep moving that way, isn't it?
I think it sounds like a really simplistic way to put it. I like an analogy. I like a pithy breakdown.
Good stuff.
But I think the only difference between good people and bad people is admission and change. Yeah. Like, even if you really hurt someone, that might be a really bad thing to do. But if you admit that you've done it, it might just be a mistake in your history. It might be part of you that you can, if you recognize it and you can get better from that.
Yeah.
It's some mistakes they're a high price to pay. If you hurt someone you love,
right,
it's a big price to pay for you to learn that mistake. It's an unfair lesson. But the only difference between them is good and bad people is admission and change.
Yeah.
Like,
well said, man.
Everyone does shitty shit.
What do you think, Helen?
The thing that I spoke about on that helped me with acceptance in general is that whole acceptance doesn't mean approval, and not even just about self. Like, something shitty might have happened to you when you were a child and you're trying to move on from that. Right. But I believe in order to move on from that fully, you have to accept it.
Yeah.
By accepting it, it doesn't mean to say that you approve of it. It doesn't mean to say this shitty thing was okay, I've accepted it. What it means is this shitty thing happened, it made me feel like this. I can accept that was my reality, and now I can move forward from it. So acceptance doesn't mean approval. That's where I got stuck on the whole acceptance thing for ages, because I was like, how can I accept something that was really painful? How can I accept my own behaviour when I was a fucking knobhead? How can I accept all of these things that are horrible for me? But I want to move forward. I want to do better. And I don't believe, in my view, we can fully take action from this kind of neutral ground to move forward, to love ourselves deeper, to do better, until we've accepted what is.
That's something that
self-compassion.
I'm really struggling with that a lot at the minute. It's a lot of guilt, an awful lot of guilt. And you get to a point where you think things have been what they were. You move on and move past it. But then I get this thing of like, I don't deserve to move past it. It's a really, really tough thing to get over. And that's what's holding me back at the minute. That's why I keep relapsing, is I don't think I deserve to move past it. It's hard, man.
I remember someone once saying to me, however you react to that, I think it might even my brother was one of his rare sort of wise words. But he said something along the lines of kind of whatever you said and did at the time was what you were meant to do and say at the time. And I think it was him that said it. And it's like, that's it. And that is the first thing. The other thing is like, well, would I do it any differently now? And why would I do it differently now? Yeah. And so when you ask yourself those questions, that's when your values come in. And I think like that like I've tried to live, that's a big thing for me, is to try to live more of a values-led life. And so that's integrity, which I've always had close to my heart anyway. Say it like you say it. Don't let anyone put bullshit words in that you repeat back, if you don't believe in it. And actually, there was definitely a time when through my inaction, and that's probably not turning towards it and recognising it, which is what you're saying, Helen, but be led by your values. And it's about, well, how can I be better? Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not taking away your feelings of guilt or whatever. I don't know all the details, but the point being is like, okay, well, that's what you did. Now what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to accept it. That's what happened. I'm going to try and work out how I can avoid doing that in the future. Yeah.
And it's... I'm trying to put this delicately as I can. Like,
just say it.
I'm trying to say it without saying specifics because it's the other person in this.
Other people, okay.
But I'm always as honest as I can be at that moment. Yeah. But I'm also, like I said, I was single for 10 years. I'm unpracticed in relationships. Absolutely. So the things I might try and be honest about and try and say might be fucking hurtful. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to say I've not done anything too bad because that's not my call. Yeah. That's not for me to say.
But also, like, for me, you cannot ever choose how somebody is going to feel or react from your action. All you can do is do things with the right intention.
Of course.
So we can always only ever do things with the right intention. And my thing would be like, okay, so this is where you're at right now. Yeah, you might be struggling with acceptance and just being with them emotions right now. But it's kind of like, where are you going to put your energy? Like, am I going to put my energy on what if this, or what should I have done differently? Or actually, am I going to put my energy on what can I do now? Like,
no, I get you. But that's where the guilt tells me you don't deserve to move past it. The catastrophic thinking is this other party's never going to be the same again. You don't deserve to move past it. It's toxic, man. It's really toxic. But that's what therapy's about.
That's partly like a coping strategy.
Probably, yeah.
Almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's safe here.
Yeah.
It's safe here where I can berate myself and feel shit about myself because I know that this is what to expect. If I step out of this, if I let the guilt go and I start moving towards feeling happier, then what? What happens if things change?
Yeah, of course,
safety mechanism.
What if I do it again?
Speaking of coping mechanisms, I didn't catch it all, but Gabor Mate talking about ADHD, talking about how it's a coping mechanism.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And things like bipolar.
Yeah.
Like you get really, really shitty shitties, and then the normals feel like the highest highs of all time because you don't feel that anymore, and you just fucking sawtoothing your way across life. It's hard.
When I done some of my training in trauma, one of the visual things that really stuck with me was that you can grow up and live your entire life in shark-infested water I could come along and take you out the shark-infested water, put you on a safe desert island, and you are unsafe and you are riddled with anxiety because the desert island doesn't feel safe to you and you want to go back to the shark-infested water. Yeah. Normal, healthy upbringings, and I'm living on a desert island, you put them in shark-infested water, and that's fucking terrifying. Yeah. So it could be a lot of people live their lives mostly in shark-infested water. Exactly that. If you're going to come out and go on the desert island, that doesn't feel safe anymore.
Well, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, and we both have the same thing where if life's going too good, our mind will conjure up something to feel shitty about because it expects the bad.
How can I self-sabotage this?
Yeah.
How can I fuck this up? Because it's going to get fucked up anyway.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But one of the things I audibly tell myself now, nothing's happened. Like if I'm feeling too anxious, it doesn't cure it all. But if I'm feeling really anxious, I'll say, Rory, nothing's happened yet. It's settled down, nothing has occurred yet. It's okay. I'll tell myself. I'm just like a fucking lunatic walking around the house.
I go, everything is okay in this moment.
Yeah.
Everything is okay in this moment.
Yeah.
Because when my head goes, what happens if this and what happens if that? I'm like, right, Helen, back to this moment. Everything right now is okay in this moment.
Yeah.
It's like the thing I think about it's actually quite close to me, that thought about to sort of relationships and so on. It's sort of normalizing, being, someone who's been normalized in a situation where, like you said about the sharks and so on. And you can relate that to, like, the easy one for that is like prisons, people that get not indoctrinated. What's the word? They spend a lot of time in institutionalized.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same sort of thing. Is like they come out and they can't really adapt to. It's the same for the military. Like it can be the same for that as well. But like an abusive relationship, for example, where you come out of it and it's actually there can be difficult to develop trust, and kind of you're always like you said about anxious. So you're always sort of like on the lookout for what's like, there's always something lurking around the corner to happen because you think that's what's going to happen. And of course, I'm a believer also that if you allow that to dominate your thinking too much, you end up manifesting it anyway, because you're very, what you put out is what you often receive back.
I agree. I think when you say I think some people don't have a choice. Yeah. Some people are ruled by their thoughts. They don't rule their thoughts. Yeah. That's something I'm really struggling with as well. Yeah. Like intrusive thoughts, it's a huge thing. Yeah. Like I'll just sit here. I'll have gotten to a safe point, and I'll just, I feel good. Yeah. I'll have a bath. I'll go upstairs. I'll have some alone time, whatever it is. Yeah. I'll play on a computer game. I'll feel good. And then ping, you did this 3 years ago. And it's like, fuck, I've got to start again. Yeah. I've got to start the whole thing over again. Yeah. And it lasts days. It's really scary.
So I can relate to that first half. The second half is something that was only happened to me when I've been really suffering. So, and one thing I've noticed is like meditation has made me much more patient. It's made me able to pull things back from those thoughts very rapidly, like to the point where it's very quick. And I can even see it in other people and help them do it, but it's like they have to go on their own. But yeah, to be able to pull that back, like I can still ruminate on stuff, but it's far less often. But when I do, it can go for like a week or two. Yeah. But it just happens far less often now. Yeah. But it's just, and I recognize all the things that are going on that could take me down that road that you used to, because ultimately I was insecure and like kind of spending a lot more time allowing myself to just thought take over as facts and so on. And things like that.
They're skills, aren't they? Like really they're skills that we're not taught. We're like, we don't understand this human kit that we've got and how fucking intelligent it is, but also how it can be a bit of an arsehole to us sometimes. And the skills that we learn and adapt as we grow. Yeah. But same thing, like the amount of times that I've literally been living the dream and a thought's dropped in and it's so easy to catch that thought and hang on to it, and then the feelings that are synced to that thought, and then it's a downward spiral. But actually what I do now is I'll notice the thought and I'll go, isn't that interesting? My mind's seeing I'm happy here and it's trying to keep me safe, or it's thinking you don't deserve to be happy, or whatever it is, and it's just throwing a spanner in the works. And it's kind of trying to separate myself from my thoughts and my feelings, because I am not them. I am here, but I am not my thoughts. I'm not my feelings. My mind does this incredible thing of going, remember that time you tripped that boy up when you were 7? Yeah. What an arsehole. You're there feeling good about yourself, but remember that time you were an arsehole? Yeah. And now I go, isn't that interesting? And have a bit of a laugh at my mind about me thinking, there's a little negative Nancy up there that thinks she's going to hold me back. She can fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get to that point. I'm sure I will. Yeah, yeah. And it's taken me till 37 to learn you're allowed to be kind to yourself, and that's really what I'm trying to do.
You're only 37.
Yeah. I've
Just
had a
at
hard life,
57,
do you know what I mean? Are we going to talk about the way people look now, are we? Let's do this if you want.
You're
Go
only
on.
3 years older than me, and
I'm
I
only
look
kidding.
much younger.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself that, Helen. But yeah, I forgot what I was fucking saying now.
Because it
Sorry,
was
dude.
useless.
37, being kind to yourself.
Yeah.
When no one else is.
Yeah, it took a long
Oh, I
time.
love you, bro.
It took such a long time, and it's still something I'm trying to learn now, and I keep forgetting. I'm trying to get back to stable 2017 Rory.
Yeah.
But it's only 4 months since my engagement ended. Do you know what I mean? I'm still a wreck. Do you know what I mean? Getting to that point, I'm just trying to survive the next 12 months, how long it'll take.
It really is worth remembering how much you know about yourself and how much like you know what works for you and how bloody good you are at sticking to the things, even if they only feel like that. No, it's true, but it is. It's like it's
I
true.
don't like you.
Like you're a great example. You are, despite the fact that you're a great example. Despite your like severe mental health that you can experience, it's like a great example of what sometimes it's just enough to just be here and just be like, just keep enough the face above water just to be able to breathe and just be able to get through it. And but it's like all that for me is like forward steps. It's a it is a roller coaster, like Bill said. Life is that. But it feels to me like you're kind of like, you know, there's so many people I've met in life, and I was one of them at one point over 10 years ago that was really like not that self-aware basically, and had to be sort of guided and sort of would look to other people for reassurance and for kind of validation. That was it. There was two key features of me.
To that point,
that was horrible.
That was something I've really been struggling with as well. So, as I said, I didn't realise I was depressed. And one of the other things was all of my comfort from anxiety came from external sources. It was other people reassuring me of things. Yeah, it was constant. And the way my counsellor explained it is, if you get an anxiety spike straight up, and someone, it's okay, this is the thing, it'll go down again. But the next time you have an anxiety spike, it'll go to the same magnitude. If you just let it go and then sit with it and let it dissipate, the next time the spike will be a little bit lower and then a little bit lower and a little bit lower. And over time, I'm sure that's a really simplified way of putting that. But over time, you can learn to. You should be able to calm your own anxiety. It shouldn't have to come from other people.
Yes.
You know, and that's again, I've never ever learned that. But like I took a lot of my dad's stuff. He was a shouty guy. He was the center of attention. And I think a lot of my way of handling things was just to shout my way through. It always has been.
It was for me. It was for me. It definitely was for me.
I'll be kind to myself for once. In those moments where you think something's happening, for someone to say, no, it's not happening, whether that's the boogeyman coming through the door, whether that's the world's going to crash down, whether you want whatever, it's really hard not to just say, please help me. Please tell me this isn't happening. Please tell me I'm wrong. And now I know it would have been logical and healthy to just sit with it myself. But in those moments, I had no idea. Like, having someone tell you, you're okay, it's like a bad trip.
Yeah, that's quite an extreme level of reflection needed back to you to actually, you know, give you a reality. Yeah. Sort of, you know, put the mark in the sand and say, no, this is where we're at. This is where you're at. But if you think and then you've got that as a reference point, basically. Yeah, fair play.
But if you think about what a trip is, whether that's through edibles or psilocybin, whatever it is.
Right, okay.
And you're in it. Let's say you're even getting drunk. Let's say you get drunk and you're going to be sick. You've never felt that before and you're going to be sick. Yeah. If someone says, no, you're okay, you're going to be fine. That's terrifying. Next time it happens, or the room's spinning, next time it happens, you might look to someone for assistance at that point. Yeah. Because you might think that's how it's going to happen. Right. But if the first time you get shit-faced, you're on your own, and you learn to come through it, next time you'll know what it is and you can sway and move with it a little bit. Yeah. So it's the same with anxiety. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I see as building your own resilience in the moment, isn't it? Like, it's, for me, resilience is best learned in the thick of it. Like, so like that, it's learning to be resilient through your own experience and actions. But that's it, is that actually when we have fixers and people that come in and it's all with goodwill, but actually when people are doing that, we're not building the resilience. We're being soothed by an external source.
This is partly why I'm obsessed with the balance as well. So like the idea of like safe spaces these days has this massive connotation, which is far wider than I'd ever thought of it. Like safe place is somewhere where the factors combine to make you feel like you can share the things confidently, which you would otherwise might feel shameful for or whatever. Very, very different to protecting someone's risk of being offended.
Yeah.
You know, and actually protecting people from sort of media or banning people or censorship or whatever it might be. You know, it's like, I mean, this just that as a term has it's become like tarnished basically.
If you think of that typical meme you see where growth doesn't happen from your comfort zone.
Right.
Do you
No,
know
it's
what I'm
absolutely, it's so true.
like safe spaces.
Yeah.
They're essential for people. I'm never going to say they're
Yeah.
not. You have to have your safe space, whether it's behind your door with your friends or in an academic setting or professional setting.
It's
You
easy
have
for
to
you to
have
say.
some kind of safe space.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they should be limited to a degree. It shouldn't be that every single space is safe, because then you'll never ever grow. And that's no one else's choice for you to make. No, go on.
I was just going to say, I would challenge you on my perception of that, because a safe space for me is a place where I can get uncomfortable.
Right.
I know that sounds backwards,
no, I get you.
but I'm just thinking, so I host women's circles. We create a safe space. Like,
Yeah.
we're not like ruly, but there's certain things that mean that we will create a safe space for people to offload or share their emotions. And that's uncomfortable as fuck sometimes.
right, yeah.
Sitting in silence is sometimes uncomfortable as fuck, but also like a safe relationship. If I go, like, here feels like a safe space, we're openly talking.
It's not.
But that doesn't mean it's not shit, I'm in
Yeah,
danger.
Look under your chair.
But that doesn't mean that I'm always going to feel comfortable
Yeah.
here. That
No,
doesn't
I
mean
get
to
you.
say that I'm not going to leave my comfort zone. And actually, when I'm in a safe, supportive space, that's when I feel like I'm most likely to grow.
You're right.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think we're kind of saying a similar thing. The nuances, I think you're 100% right. But I think in terms of people saying this should be a safe space, not everything should be a safe space.
Safe space to do what? That's the thing, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like safe
Do
space
you
to be able
mean
to talk
as
about
in
the
I'm
things.
comfortable, this is safe,
Yeah.
you can be yourself here? What do you mean by...
I think it's mob rule imposed safe spaces.
Okay, so
where
you're
you're
not going to be
supposed to say certain
offended,
things.
and
Yes.
we're not going to say uncomfortable shit, and we're
Exactly.
not going to say it how it is, because God forbid we offend
And your
somebody.
definition of safe
Workplaces.
space is great. Your definition of a safe space is perfect, but that's not what other people would
No.
call a
Okay.
safe space, because you're a reasonably enlightened person and you try and impart that upon other people to tell them criticism isn't always bad. You don't need to
Yeah.
get your back up. Growth is okay. You guide them through what would be considered potentially a hostile environment in an unsafe space.
Yeah, but I'm with them.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I think we agree. But,
And I think
yeah.
also going back to what you were saying there, and you saying about keeping your head above the water, is we have to be okay, every single one of us, that some days are genuinely just keeping your head above water. No matter how fucking successful your life might be, or how great you feel 90% of the time, or whether it's 10% of the time, some days are genuinely just keep your head above water. And don't ever let fucking social media or anybody else convince you that that is not everyone's experience.
Yeah, I get you. And for me at the minute, like I said, it's sometimes just getting through the night. Legitimately getting through the night that's the win. Putting my clothes on, putting a pair of jeans on and not a pair of sweatpants is the win. Like, it's your...
No, really.
Whatever
No,
your
really
daily
is.
win is to you,
Yeah.
don't ever feel like, no, all I did was leave the house. You left the fucking house.
Yeah, yeah.
It's personal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is where I get a little bit on my soapbox, because there's so many kind of experts and gurus out there that will tell you the way, this is what success is, this is how you be happy, this is how you deal with your mental health. And I'm like, fuck it, nobody else is the expert of you. Nobody else knows what your wins are. Nobody else knows what achievement feels like to you. Nobody else is you.
Yeah.
Like... And yes, people can guide you. People can say, hey, try this meditation or try this. But ultimately, if you take it and it doesn't apply to you, that's okay. No shame, no guilt, no judgment.
100%,
Like, you are the expert of you.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, you said CBT is the gold standard. Didn't work for me. I tried 3 different practitioners. And
Well, there must be something wrong with you, Rory, because CBT's proven.
well,
Do
it's
you know
not
what I mean?
CBT, but there is plenty wrong with me. Yeah.
No, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it
100%.
does then lead you down that hole. What the fuck is wrong with me? Because this is working for everyone.
Yeah.
Or everyone else seems happy.
And
I
that's
do mean invert. I mean, obviously, you know, I mean in inverted commas.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
of course,
so,
yeah.
Like, it's and this is it again. I mean, to sum up the whole damn thing, it's almost like the real crux of the whole thing is that people have to. I'm obsessed with people having choice as well and being exposed to it. Whether it's going to cost them money or not, that's their choice as well. Some things you have to pay for. That's just life. You can't expect everything that's going to work for everyone to be commissioned through the NHS. It's just not going to happen. So you have to have a gold standard that works for the majority of people. You have to have something which is time limited. Otherwise, how do you plan for, we've got 20 counsellors and we've got 100 people on a waiting list and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It has to be managed for us some way. My point has always been that, like, my discovery and many others, observations of many others, and in conversation with good folk like yourselves is that basically everyone has to find their way, but the problem is choice. It's like what is available out there, and it's about knowing it, it's about communicating it, and then encouraging people to be confident enough to try those things themselves. Sticking at it is a different thing, and then you've got the forgiveness, that's where self-compassion comes in. You know, like some people are type A personalities where like they aim high and they never achieve it, they never really feel happy because they never achieve the ridiculous levels that they set themselves. And so to them, life is just one big long failure.
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, big time.
Well, I mean, I can relate, I've been there, and I think it's, I definitely have. And I still go there as well. I know how painful that can be, but there's those if you're full on type A, like that kind of personality, then
I think that's a lot of
sympathise.
I don't want to keep talking about myself, but I think that's a lot of what I'm feeling at the minute is everything's been such a tear up. It feels like everything's been so tumultuous. I'm thinking about
tumultuous.
Volatile.
Volatile.
I'm thinking about my mortality, life, purpose, relationships.
Yeah.
Like there isn't one thing I'm not ruminating over. It feels like everything's just washing around at the minute.
It's only Monday.
It is, yeah. It's a fucking long week, dude. Jesus Christ, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's I think choice is an important thing.
It is.
It really is.
But and that's probably another conversation for another day, but like the very nature of that, because it comes down to resources, like I said, cost. Sometimes these things cost you money, and it's...
Yeah, and I think...
Money.
I think especially at the minute, with the cost of living, with the post-pandemic, everything, there will be... Unfortunately, I'm not saying I'm trying to be Nostradamus and claiming a win if it comes off, because it'll be shitty if it comes off. There will be a mental health bomb that's dropped on this country in the next few years.
Well, I think we haven't even seen the fallout of COVID, haven't we?
We haven't
and people are just seeing things for what they actually are. So there's going to be a lot more people questioning the last couple of years and feeling really shitty about themselves or their friends or how they behaved, and we've all got to be compassionate to ourselves and everyone else regardless of how 100%. They behaved in the midst of that fear.
Absolutely. And I think even things like this might just be totally left of centre, but things like CBDCs, central bank decentralized currency, the thought of that coming down, the impending thought of that is giving me such bad anxiety. Because if that happens, we're fucked. We're done. That would be an absolute segregation of them and us. We'd never have power ever again.
There's a lot of people. I know loads of people who are thinking and acting to try and basically get out of that system.
Yeah.
And
what is that? What does that look like? Does that mean them going off the grid, or can they stop it from incurring in the first place?
They spread. I mean, for example, any investments they've got, they've bought gold, they've bought silver.
We shouldn't have to do that.
But then anyone that spreads their investments is a wise person. There's obviously non-centralized digital currency like your Bitcoins, your Pirate Coin, all that kind of stuff. But equally, there's actually something as simple, which is hand to mouth. So it's like, well, what skills have people got? What skills we can exchange between each other? What we make. What we can do for each other, and actually that's like very old.
We were talking about this.
Helen,
we were like, we're going to buy some land.
We were talking about the compound.
We're going to skill share and literally be like, okay, I can bring this, I can do this. Okay, awesome. Like, there's no monetary value to that. We're just living off grid.
Yeah.
But again, my point is, sorry to cut you off. We shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to be doing this.
Well, there's a balance. There's a balance, but the balance has been clearly tipped too far.
Yeah.
To those who, and it's not just rich; it's companies that. Who's it's built into them with AI running the decisions in the company. Yeah. You know, the Chinese company that one of the board members is an AI computer.
Really?
So one of the voting members of the board for the company is an AI computer, which actually decides, and it looks at algorithms, it looks at kind of the market, it looks at
run on Windows XP.
And it makes if you put the decision, it's just, and what's its point? To make money.
Yeah.
And so I don't know the full details about it, but if it hasn't got long-term value of humans as part of that algorithm, then why on earth would it make good decisions for us? And so that it can be as simple as that. It's not necessarily I want to get rich and
I totally hear what you're saying in terms of like externally what's happening and decisions that are going to be made and what that means for our future. And I've massively been down that rabbit hole and it affects my mental health. How I kind of play it now is like, yes, I want to be aware of shit. Yes, I want to do as much as I can. But I also need the skills to get some inner peace and acceptance for the shit I can't control.
I get you.
Does that make sense?
I'm on the same page, but the thing that's getting me... I don't want to go down this rabbit hole with CBDCs, but the thing that's getting me about that is there's going to have to come a point where when you say you can control what you can, the next action isn't stopping direct debits; it's revolution.
Yeah.
It
No,
will be
I
people
get that.
taking to the streets. It's going to happen soon.
And that's what I mean,
terrifying.
like, as in, okay, everything is okay in this moment.
Yeah.
So when I do that whole, like, okay, and then what? And then what about my kids? And then what about their future? And what the fuck are we going to eat? And where are we going to live? And, okay, Helen, calm it.
Yeah.
Everything is okay in this moment, one step at a time. Yes, it's great to have insight, and I can probably guess what the next thing is and the next thing is. And I would rather be aware and eyes open as much as possible than not.
Yeah. That's
right.
But also, if that's impacting my mental health, am I in a good place to make decisions? Am I in a good place to actually be here for my kids right now? And I get it. I totally get it, because I've been there and I've done that, and I'm not coming from a place of, hey, I'm fucking healed and this is incredible up here, because I slip into that shit in hell. But also, it's kind of like, everything is okay in this moment. And there'll be a point, if we're in the fucking midst of resolution, I'm going, Rory, everything's not okay in this moment. But also, I'll deal with that when we get there.
Yeah.
I can be prepared and plan,
Absolutely,
and I'll deal with it when I get there.
I think that was a tangent on my part. I was going to get on my soapbox for a second, but what I'll come back to saying, like I said, the mental health crisis that's going to hit this country is going to be huge. It's going to be really big, and we need people to actually make change now.
You don't think it's enough already to warrant saying that we've got a sort of
we've got
we
a
do.
fucking
We absolutely
epidemic,
do.
yeah.
It's
Thank God.
yeah. We
Because,
absolutely do.
I
It's a
do.
fucking problem. How I'm going to get angry about this. How in 2022
Rage.
is suicide the leading cause of death of men under 50?
50.
Yeah. How the fuck is that happening? And
Well, cars are
people at the top
safer
have
for
no compassion.
cars are safer for one thing. We live longer. I mean, I'm just going to flip the coin a little bit and go, actually, well, look, you know, what? I mean, this is an odd thing for me to say, especially the conversations I generally have.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
let's look at some of the positives that might have come out of such an odd, expensive, and damaging psychological situation for the whole population.
Which one? Sorry, COVID.
The COVID, basically.
Right, okay.
And I mean, that could just, but particularly the policies like lockdown, for example, right? But what the pushback to that, let's say it was, let me just put my tinfoil hat on for a second.
Right.
Let's say there was a plan.
Yeah.
And the plan was from the day that the lockdown started. And it was like, well, companies, AIs went, how are we going to make money out of this and profit out of it, right? And pharmaceuticals may well have been very good at that, right? So
Hypothetically
speaking, of course. But let's imagine that. Put tinfoil hat on. So the pushback to that, I don't think is necessarily something which was expected.
Yeah.
And that pushback has been that a lot of people have spent a lot of time with themselves, their families, their friends, and thinking about what's important to them in life.
You're right, but I'll challenge that one point.
Absolutely. Well, you don't. I wouldn't have had that sacrifice for that.
It didn't have the choice.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it was
it might have been a benefit that came from it from some people, but nobody had the choice. And
and some people were on their own.
I was going to say, more people didn't have
No,
families.
and that's just one
Sorry,
one
we're
effect.
totally jumping on your itch.
One sample. No, it's right, but I don't think that sacrifice is vaguely worth it. I think a lot of people have that without that when they either get made redundant from work or, you know, the terrible things they have bereavement in the family from the main earner, and the next thing that their life's turned upside down, and many things can happen that can suddenly make your life suddenly go from a very sweet living to something which is like, holy shit, I'm on a downward spiral. And but that pushback has been collective as well, and it's like, well, I'll take that little one because it has happened, and I'll focus on that. And then I see the groups like the one that Helen's involved with Ben and yourselves. Sorry, with the Redcar group with this dip in meditation. I'm going, when I went down there, I was like, I wonder if this is part of this like awake community which is going on where people are kind of like pushing back against like our society rulers, our government, and sort of like just going, you know what? You bastards are lining your pockets a bit too much. The inequality and financial inequality is getting way too much out of hand. And actually, you're so far in our faces and so obvious with it that actually I'm not going to put up with it anymore. But people are now going, well, what can I damn well do about it?
I think you're right. And I think I'd challenge one bit of that in that the value of those groups are immeasurable. They really are for people on a day-to-day basis. But I don't feel that's a pushback because it's not going to change anything at the top end. Us going in the water.
What is?
Exactly. That's
apart
my
from
point.
a fucking civil war revolution.
Yes, but that's my point. That maybe it's catastrophic thinking on my part.
No.
But to save the next generation, we might have to do that shit. That's a proper tinfoil thing to say. Yeah. But to save the next generation, we might have to take to the streets.
Do you know what? It's the terrifying thing more so is if we're having this conversation, just as a say thought experiment or something, whatever you want to say, is that there's other people are thinking it as well.
That's my point.
Fucking that should be something that if I was in the government.
Yeah.
Now, if that is true, and people aren't just like sort of walking through life like zombies going, yeah, at least fuel's gone down 5 pence from £1.90 to £1.85. Yeah, woohoo! Like celebrating, going, hang on, what the fuck?
But
Why
it went
is that
up from 110.
Yeah,
to
oh yeah,
190
no,
in the first
like,
fucking place.
oh, that step change suddenly happened overnight. Like, not a step change at all. But and like suddenly accepting it and going, well, what can you do about it? I think those times that sense of you can't do anything about it probably is going, but there's something else. There's something brewing.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps saying it. Everyone actually.
You can feel it though,
You
can't
can,
you?
yeah.
And I think like whether you're woo-woo spiritual or not, like your intuition, your gut, energetically I can feel something. Something's not right. And whether people are fully tinfoil hat wearers or just thinking, oh, something doesn't feel right. Actually, the more curious we are,
explore
like
the
we've
ideas.
just got to come at this with curiosity without judging one another for their thoughts and their beliefs. And this is where I think that whole, I think you mentioned something earlier about having having the, your last podcast, where it was like you had total different beliefs, is that we have to be okay with people having different beliefs to us and still be compassionate towards them and get curious.
And that was coming back to that was my actual first point. It's been protracted, but...
Coming full circle.
Full circle. If you're a medic... Sorry.
This is like a musical version.
If I could just hold on to that moment, and I'll replay it in my head every time I need to laugh. Fantastic.
Dr. Jones.
The mental health situation
It's like
in
some
this country...
shitty American 80s soap, innit?
Shit you talking about? We're going on the road. The mental health situation in this country is fucked, and it's getting fucked. It's going to get worse.
It's getting fucked and
yeah,
fucked
it's a
about
word.
in a minute.
Yeah,
Like Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, and we need all the help we can get. All the help we can get, and the things like the cold water groups, awesome. Meditation, awesome. Therapy, awesome. All of that good stuff. But the judgment needs to go. This isn't the whole crux. This is just one thing, but it really fucking gets my goat. The judgment needs to go. So now, coming into 2023, if you see someone who's... Like, working class people are going to get wrecked by what's going on. Absolutely ruined.
Well, that's the thing. I think middle classes are going to get a real shock as well, potentially.
Of course.
That's the point.
Absolutely.
We're all fucked.
No, you're right, but I'm talking about...
Not all.
The working class is going to get hit harder.
Yeah.
And whether we want to believe it or not, it's the working classes who... And I'm speaking to someone who's working class. I mean, I'm middle class now, but I'm from a working class background. That typical picture of someone that doesn't want to get off their arse and do something is someone in a pair of Primark Uggs, eating a bag of crisps. Do you know what I mean?
Are you describing me?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes. If you're a medical professional or just anybody in the street, everybody needs to be compassionate. So don't ever, ever dare look at those people like you're better than them. Don't look at them like they're lazy, because you don't fucking know. Nobody knows. And they very well may be, but make your first thing, whether you're a PhD psychologist or you're just someone that set up a Facebook group, treat everyone with the respect they deserve, because you don't know what that person's day looks like. They're just trying to get through the day the same as you, and they might have no idea how to get out of it. Like my sister's a senior nurse, went to uni, did a degree. She's a single mum. She's got a daughter who needs childcare every now and then. When all of these cost of living measures come in, she's getting wrecked. Like she got a really decent job, and she's still getting wrecked by the whole thing. Like to the point where house might have to downsize. Do you know what I mean? Like move in with other people, that kind of shit. We shouldn't have to do any of that, and the strain it's going to put on people is catastrophic.
I unfortunately work in a service with people where I do hear the stories where people already have been affected for the last 15 bloody years. Yeah. And it's like, just now, this is my point about the middle classes, now it's starting to chew everyone's
no,
life.
Of course, I'm not
it's
at
like,
all.
People are suddenly noticing and waking up. It's like, holy shit. That's really naughty to those of us who have been activists like around this stuff for a while.
I'm not diminishing what everybody's going through, not at all. I know you're not. Not for a second.
That's reality. That's the reality of it.
But we can go into the tinfoil thing. The whole thing is to make more people dependent on the state.
Yeah.
Push more people down the socioeconomic groups. That's the whole point. So middle classes will get down there eventually.
Yeah.
But if you're a mental health professional, someone who set up a group, don't look at someone who's just sat overweight, watching TV, scrolling on their phone as somebody who's lazy.
No.
They might be unwell.
No.
Do you know what I mean? They're just getting through the fucking day.
Absolutely.
Don't look, oh, well, they've got a Sky subscription.
I have been
Who
that
gives a
judgmental.
shit?
I have been that judgmental about those people.
But
I
think
have.
we all
Absolutely.
have.
I
I
have,
think
yeah.
it's innate within us. So when I'm saying about not judging, I think we also need to be okay with the fact that we will make judgments because of how our brain is wired to make judgments. Like, are you part of my gang? Are you part of your, like, are you different? Like, it's survival. But then
You wouldn't ever shame somebody based upon the back of that,
God,
would you?
no,
That's
like,
my point.
I make a conscious effort to not be judgmental.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean to say that I don't have judgmental thoughts, is
No,
what
of
I'm
course.
saying, is that we can say, don't be judgmental, but I just don't want people to think that it's this kind of clean slate where you suddenly work on being non-judgmental and then you feel like a knob when you
Not
are
at all.
judgmental, if that makes sense.
Not at
because
all.
it's how our brain is wired. We're
'Cause
going to
I'll-
make judgments. It's how you go, ignore that thought,
No,
or
you're right.
I'm not acting upon that.
Like, I've got friends in Sunderland. If I see a pretty well-to-do blonde lady in a Range Rover, I'll think clean and mum. I'll think she's an arse. But that's just a judgment, and I'd never treat her differently based upon the back of that. Do you know what I mean? And I think
No, I don't. I'm not like you, Rory.
no,
We don't make judgments.
no one's like me.
We're not judgmental.
So hold on. She's from Sunderland. She's in a Range Rover and she's
Yeah.
blonde.
Yeah,
What's the judgment we're making there?
Yeah. What is it?
just that predetermined thing of like, oh, she's like a middle-class kept white kind of thing.
Ah, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I get
Yeah.
that. I get it.
Like,
I get it.
I might be
Works out,
talking-
he
Yeah,
works
no,
on
no,
the,
no, it's
he
very
works
different.
on the rigs.
Yeah,
He works on the
I
rigs.
would never
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
speak
I
to
get
that
it.
woman
I
any
get it.
differently than you or
That's
anybody
it.
else.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's that thing of prejudice. We've all got it's prejudged. We've all got prejudices, whether it's race, sex, religion, whatever it is. Like, I've got prejudices against religion big time because I was previously religious. I don't like it, but I've met really good religious people, so I can't just meet a Christian.
that's crazy.
Oh, you're a dick.
No, that's crazy.
Because it might be
Actions.
Yeah.
But the
I can't remember
ingre-
who I heard it say recently, but it was simple as, you know, if everyone started treating each other tomorrow in a way that they'd want to be treated themselves, then the world would instantly be a better place, wouldn't
instantly.
it? And so that's
Yeah.
really the point, isn't it? As well, we are going 1:59.
Oh man, we're going to have to, like,
7.
shut the hell up.
8. We should
man.
probably wrap this up, I reckon.
Why?
Well, time-wise, I've got to get away
We're
personally.
just going to have to
Yeah,
do,
Fuck, you
like,
got nothing going on.
I have.
No,
I
man.
have. No,
you
I
got
have.
nothing happening.
I
We'll
can't
come
wait
back
to
for
get back and
chapter
write up a
2.
service level agreement that I've got to write for some.
Oh, you got
funding.
SLAs going on.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
no.
SLA the shit out of life. But yeah, I've taken my flexi and I'm sort of, I could go a bit longer, but equally,
Yeah.
like
he hasn't got it in him.
we have covered
He's
some
out,
serious ground though. We have
Yeah.
covered.
We've covered everything.
I'll start doing my deep voice and just not taking it seriously.
Well, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not American anymore, I don't think.
No, well, you never were.
That's a great shot.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones.
Full circle.
So I've still got my tinfoil hat on though. If you want me to really go on a.
Yeah, do it.
A
Go on.
ragey rant.
Like,
Did we ever land on the moon?
Bill Gates is the biggest private landowner in America now.
Okay.
Why is he buying loads of private land? Like you know,
'Cause he's worth
agricultural
$1
land.
billion.
because he knows I want to
What's
go
he gonna
off
do with
grid.
it?
Just chill.
Techno grow.
Techno
Techno-grow. I don't know what the right term is, but I know that
grow microchips.
it's a site. No, it's where you're growing, but use all like technological approaches to grow. But
Yeah.
it tends to ignore the. What I read was it tends to ignore the soil kind of protection of the soil
Right, yeah,
and
that
kind of
makes
the
sense.
rotation of
Yeah,
soil.
yeah.
And,
Oh,
like
but-
basically really well known old kind of techniques and stuff.
Yeah.
And that is also happening in the UK, as I understand. Although I don't know who it is, but there's a buy-up, a land
Rothschild,
buy-up
maybe.
as well. Oh Jesus Christ, he went there. Or other rich people are also.
Did you hear
available.
the the apocryphal tale
The
about
weird
how
thing
they
is,
got their
by the
money?
way, if you say that, people just said Rothschild, and just
Yeah.
by saying that,
The cigarette guys.
just by
That's
saying
Rothman
that, but just by saying that, they're like, oh, you're being anti-Semitic because you're using a anti-Jewish.
I didn't even know they were Jewish.
That's madness. Exactly. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, oh no, but now they would say, well, now it's
I
your
thought
job
they
to
were just landed gentry.
now it's your job to educate yourself, Rory, because that's a Jewish.
Yeah, I
trait.
will.
Well, it's
Now.
crazy. It's
I will now.
The idea that you could say that, not even having any religious spin on it, and then be accused of.
Well, no one knows my
being-
religion,
no, it's-
so.
exactly. It's madness,
But
isn't
yeah, the apocryphal tale about how they got their money is it was during the Napoleonic War.
it? Who?
The Rothschilds, how they
Right,
got their
okay.
fortune
Right.
was they communicated. They had friends in the newspapers in the UK, or they had some kind of communication with the country. So they communicated that England had lost the war against Napoleon.
Okay.
No such thing had happened. So overnight, land became a fraction of what it cost. They went in, bought all of the cheap land, and then the word got back that England won the Napoleonic War. So their land was worth X times more what it was. It was some land scam, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did
Thought
you
it
get
was
that? Was there a book about it or something?
I don't read books.
What sauce? What sauce can we reference?
Suddenly you don't read books.
There's probably a lad in McDonald's, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say
No,
that.
I think it's true. I think it is true.
I think they're probably long gone. They won't be interested in saying anything against it.
No.
But I don't know. I never genuinely looked into it, but I know that like the Bill Gates stuff. I'm sort of well aware of like some of the stories that come out and so on. And like a lot of these are on the record. You know, they're on whether it's like people who have taken the Gates Foundation to court and successfully won. And some of the stuff there, I think it was in certainly one. I think it was in an African nation somewhere. He was funding stuff there, and I mean, they could talk about the pharmaceutical companies and their recent admissions and so on.
I think for me, what genuinely always blows my mind is that most information is right there.
That's what I mean.
It's there, like
exactly, it's on the record.
And we can shame people and shoot people down and judge people and label people, but unless you've done a bit of homework and seen there in black and white in official documents,
your science versus my science.
It's there.
But this is the thing, like when you speak about language, it's such an important tool because especially during the pandemic, you could label somebody as an anti-vaxxer, and then this whole sect of society thought they were a dirty, awful piece of shit.
Yeah.
But what if they were unwell? What if they got conscious objections to it?
Yeah.
What about that guy? Who's the guy on Rogan?
Well, the people who have actually died.
Was he a Middle Eastern journalist?
Shit out of people. Is what?
The Middle Eastern journalist. He's on LBC.
Sajid. No.
You know who I mean, though? Him, that fellow.
Yeah, he was on Talk Radio, wasn't he?
Oh, that fine fellow.
He got labelled in an article an anti-vaxxer, and then it went on to say he was vaccinated in such and such.
Yeah.
But they called him an anti-vaxxer, and as soon as they planted that seed, he's fucked.
Yeah.
And even though I got vaccinated, those kind of labels, conservative, Republican, Labour, Tory, division, like, it's terrible.
It's awful, isn't it? Labels and division, like, I hate it.
Yeah.
And I think when I come back, like, I am very science-driven.
You mean in the next life?
What do you mean?
When you say come back, do you mean here?
No, I mean, like, come back
Majid
to,
Nawaz.
like...
Yeah.
Majid Nawaz.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. I'm very science-driven in terms of, like, I like to see the research. I like to see the data for myself.
Yeah.
But also, I can listen to my intuition and my gut. And some people didn't get a vaccine because it didn't feel right and something fell off.
Of course, but I've had friends who, when I got vaccinated, I bought into the whole thing. But I've had friends that when I start saying things like, actually, I don't think that this is right, it was like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? Like, it made people angry. And I think a lot of people don't want to come down on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
They say, we'll have a debate, but if you're not willing to have your own mind change, it's not a debate.
No, that's right.
It's a lecture.
I agree with that.
And I think...
Let's be open. I'm open to being challenged.
Oh, but
I'm
trust
not
the experts, though, Rory.
But I'm
trust
open.
the experts, Helen.
Oh, yeah.
Trust
the
the experts.
Your
science versus my
Remember,
science.
I said, you are the expert of you.
Yeah, exactly.
I am the expert of me.
To a degree, you've got to, though, because I'm not doing the research into COVID vaccinations. Like,
no, I get that, but also it's use your intuition as well.
Yeah, exactly.
What's
I would
right
say.
for you?
It's like I've read stuff, but I'm also aware that I don't see everything. If you watch the news, you're getting one side of the story, and it's very fear-driven and all that stuff. But I'm also like... We have to be okay with being challenged. Yeah. I'm not vaccinated. If somebody wants to challenge me on that, my reason for not being vaccinated is it doesn't feel like the right thing for me. How can that be wrong?
I love it when...
you're not against it, and it's actually you're not against, like, people who might not want to get one thing doesn't mean they're against all.
No.
That was like the lack of nuance in media is blindingly obvious to people now as well. Actually, there's another positive. I think actually... the nature of like media, how terribly owned it is, and like how completely biased it is, you know, to whoever their paymasters are, including the glorious BBC. I would probably suggest, you know, it's like, well, you know, like there's if you leave information out of something you report, which is it's tough to report on anything without leaving something out of nuance, but you have to then go, well, I'm going to look at this further and take a bit of an
if you include everything, it stops becoming a report and it becomes a published paper, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? If you remove all bias and report something, then that's a white paper. So I'm to your point, you have to include some of your own experience and bias in a report. You're always going to leave something out.
Yeah, it's going to be painting a story in one direction.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you include everything, That is the research paper.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to read. That's what I want to read and feel into it.
You're
for myself.
one of a billion people.
What, you don't want to wait? You don't want to wait 55 years for the raw data to be released?
And I'll whack it into SPSS and do some statistic analysis.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
I thought we already had the data.
To do that. I don't think anyone wants to do that.
No, and I totally get that, and that's what people
Data.
go to the news for, is because they're like, give me the.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, the flip side is, for those, I mean, he said it, Chris Whitty said it right at the very start about COVID, is that the vast majority of people will be fine.
Yeah.
And the vast majority will also experience very few, if any, symptoms. And so that I was like, well, I'm a healthy guy. I look after myself. I take my vitamins every day, eat well. I exercise like shit, and like, as a good thing. And generally, know myself. And I made that decision. And I've had all my other jobs at that point I'd had. And I just went, nah, not this for me. Yeah. But I wasn't, my mum, I was like, well, and others, there was a time, when I got so embroiled in it, I got in trouble at work for it. And I was actually, my brother and I sort of had a bit of a falling out for a while, because he made the point to me that I was a bit too in people's face about it, as in like, you shouldn't do this or whatever. And actually there was a time when I was a bit like that, and then I sort of had to settle back and go, well, it's people's personal choice, and actually that's the real thing that I cared about, was informed choice.
I was totally bought in,
and
by
not
that.
like, oh, you're a piece of shit killing grandma if you don't get it. It's like, which has obviously been proven.
I was taken in hook, line and sinker by the campaign, like,
okay,
100%. I'd put on Facebook, like, I'd try and cut through the statistics and cut through the fat a little bit and show some statistics, but it would always be like, if you don't get the vaccination, you're selfish because it's not you you're affecting. I said those things.
But also, you've got to be okay with how much you were driven by fear and manipulated into fear at that stage. That's not. We have to be okay, and this is what I'm saying. As in, like, in the next coming years, when we see things differently, we have to be okay with how people acted in them times.
That's why I'm so willing to open up about it, because I know it wasn't my fault.
I get it, man.
It wasn't my fault.
I totally do.
Yeah, and even
because
if it was my fault,
what about the next time?
What
about next time when something like that works and it's necessary, and it's like, okay,
as soon as the trust is gone, came out, I was like, fuck it, here we go again.
That's right, and that's the problem.
Stick it in me.
That's the problem. Yeah, I'm not so far over the fence that I'm fully anti-vax or anything like that. It's like, okay, like, these things appear to be, and there are, some people might say they link up with other things, changes that were happening at the time, when there was industrial exposures and different things like this. I'm like,
well, it came out of a lab.
I don't know. I know.
Let's not beat around the bush. It came out of a lab.
Yeah, it looks like that, doesn't it? Yeah.
If you saw radiation leaking from a place on a map, and you saw within 5 miles there was a nuclear power plant broken open, that might influence your decision a little bit. Yeah.
Didn't the American Senate conclude recently that that's basically the most likely explanation?
Yeah,
is that the Wuhan
of course
lab?
it is.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
It's like, it's hard to say. It's hard to say that's not.
If you're walking down a beach and you get a stone in the back of the head, and you turn around, there's one guy there with a handful of stones.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Dude.
Exactly.
Have you seen the guy who's been throwing stones?
Just
look like them.
Logic.
They look like them.
That direction.
It's like, yeah. 2 miles down the road there.
Follow the logic. That's all I'll say. Don't listen to your newspaper. And this is the thing, right?
We're on one now.
Are we going to play rock, paper, scissors now?
No. Don't, like, it's easy for everyone says, don't listen to your newspaper while they're reading their newspaper. Everyone says, don't watch Facebook as they're looking at their own Facebook. You've got to be willing to cut down on your own side of the fence as well, and actually be impartial yourself. Everyone does. And it's, again, I'll do it all the time. I'm often judgmental and partial. And you've got to train that out of yourself. Yeah. You have to. So
we have a responsibility to do that in terms of humanity and oneness and moving forward, without sounding too much like a hippie. We have to be okay with that. Like, the powers that be will create as much divide as possible, whatever the kind of thing is at that moment. For me, classic. I always try to stay neutral, and I can see both sides. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, I get emotionally invested in one side or the other.
Of course.
But I'm always like, that's your journey, and I can respect that.
And that's exactly why I wanted to interview Jacob Young. Yeah. Because I disagree with a lot of his politics, and especially his party's politics. Yeah. But he's still just a person. He's still just a man. And
he thinks he's doing right.
Exactly. I have to try and learn what he thinks. Yeah. I have to try and come down his side of the fence and understand him, because otherwise we'll never, ever get anywhere.
Well, that would have been more of a political conversation from my side, because it would have been... And I'm more.
Richie came with a dossier, ring binders,
I did have a sheet of different things. I was
a court stenographer.
Yeah, you know, there was.
Hilarious.
I just wanted to make sure it was literally a sheet of paper. Don't listen to a goddamn word of it.
Yeah,
he's cheese grating the truth here, totally. Yeah. But the last bit there was I did have 7 different paragraphs of things, and I was like, yeah, these are things that I want to, if I get a chance to talk about. Yeah. And actually, only one of them, I think, or 2 of them were actually political. The rest was like things to talk to him about on a personal level. That might bring that out.
I asked him the same question.
Product?
What was the last gig he went to? It's the same thing.
What was it? I'm intrigued.
He went to see Beyonce, I think.
No, it wasn't Beyonce. It was Adele.
Oh, it was Adele. Sorry, you're
Adele.
right.
Oh, Taylor Swift, Adele.
That's what I'm saying.
Taylor Swift there.
These men hating women.
Yeah, but yeah, everything like. It's a bit of a parable, but there's a guy called Daryl Davis. I think I've spoken to you about this before, and he was on Joe Rogan years ago. And he was a black guy from the southern states in America, but he travelled around a lot. I think his family was in the military. He travelled around a lot, and it was in the 50s and 60s in America, maybe the 70s. And he got lots of racial abuse as a kid. He got physical, got beat up. And he grew up not knowing why. And he was a blues player in the southern states in America, so he'd end up going to redneck bars, and some of them were inhabited exclusively by the KKK. And he tried not to get scared by it. He just went in and played, and then he would sit down with them afterwards. And it was that thing of like, Les down the road, I don't like Indians, but Mr. Patel's sound. Yeah. So they maybe didn't like black people, but they thought, oh, this guy's okay. Yeah. And he would sit and talk to them. Why do you think like that? You've never met black people before. You've never met me before. Why do you hate my kind? And he ended up converting 200 members of the KKK in one state, over all states, but in one state in particular, he converted the head of their chapter of the KKK. So in that state, he eliminated the KKK. It's back now, but for that period of time, he eliminated it just by trying to understand them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I put great stock in the power of conversation. It might sound like a really hippie idea.
To be heard is to listen.
100%.
Yeah.
But
that's
also
a fucking motivational poster, isn't it?
I love that. When we divide, so if I go, oh yeah, Rory is this and I'm this, you're Camp A, I'm Camp B, I dehumanise you in, like, I'm like, yeah, but he's Camp A. Exactly. I don't see Rory Logan. Yeah. I see Camp A and dehumanise you as an actual person.
I'm pretty camp.
Camp B.
First of all, camper.
No, like, not like camp like that, but like, do you know what I mean? Box, yeah. Whereas my little in-group over here, I see them all as humans because they're in my gang. Yeah. Whereas actually when I think of you, I don't see you as a person. Yeah. And that's what we do, is we dehumanise the opposite side of the fence.
Don't play those fucking crickets.
What's he doing?
He's going to play the cricket thing. I'll run across there and I'll hit you.
We've been too funny to play that.
But anyway,
it's been sound.
That's a lesson, I think we can beat this whole thing, and it sounds like such hippie bullshit, but if a 6'2", 300-pound tattooed, hairy, fat man from the northeast can tell you this, we beat the system by coming together. We win. That's how we win. This whole fucking thing, all of it becomes irrelevant if we come together.
I think I've got friends and others who would like...
Got friends?
Friends and others who were like...
Shit, play the crickets. He's got friends.
No. Okay. Who are basically like aiming, that's their aim, and like off grid and all that kind of stuff, and they're very close to it actually, and it includes many ways that you have to apply the system in your own common law rights to actually appropriate. And it's like it's a whole. Actually, we could do a whole podcast on that.
You're right. But I don't even mean off grid.
Everyone on this street. That's that. But I'm saying in contrast to that is like that's essentially saying like change the system from within. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is like it is the establishment established the system the way it is to keep it as a status quo, and it is self-serving, and it isn't, and it's designed. I mean, again, tinfoil hat back on, but I think these are observable things that many social writers over the centuries have like observed. You know, right away from like Machiavelli onwards, basically. Writing the Prince out, you know, power and so on. And it's you said about divide and conquer. I mean, these things have been known about for years. So it's like, you know, all the current identity politics that are going on plays into the hands of that and so on. But it's like...
if we just ignore the newspapers and the TV channels...
Most people can't imagine an alternative, Rory. They can't imagine what an alternative...
You don't need any of that information. You don't need that information. It's just to subdue people. So if we just ignore it and go and speak to the person next door, literally and figuratively... we win.
So another part of that problem is like a critical mass. So like it doesn't. Whenever read a book about revolution, and actually most revolutions start with quite a relatively small group of people, course, and actually. So for example, like revolution. And so you go you go like you have key people in the right place of power who decide they're also going to align with the rebel, and even then that's political as well. It's like, okay, well, they make a decision to usurp the system there. They've got power to do it, but actually it's probably because there's a perception of a greater gain on the opposite side or for the alternative. And it, as someone I work with says, it's more like the snake shedding its skin rather than a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Do you know what I mean? That's what it really needs.
Yeah. But that's why people like this is going like so fucking hippie.
What's this got to do with mental? No, I'm joking. Actually, quite a lot.
People like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, the reason they got assassinated is because they united everybody with love.
Right.
They didn't unite everybody in hate of a greater power. Right. They united people in love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they united black people, Asian people, white people, Latino people. They united them.
But we're all made of the same stuff, aren't we?
That's my point.
But the programming, the beliefs that are formed, the divisions that have happened deep within us, not even like, even we could commit to all of the healing and putting our ego aside and seeing each other as humans. This stuff's like ingrained in our DNA.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work. I know that we say a lot of this stuff and it sounds real simple, but it's not fucking easy. No, of course,
like I said, I still get prejudices. I've got long-standing things from my childhood. There's certain racial slurs that my parents used to say, particularly my dad, that not even my parents, everyone's parents, when we bought a Chinese meal or you go to a certain shop on the corner of the street, you would call it a certain thing.
Yeah.
They're still in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And there's no shame in having those. The only shame is if you act upon them and hurt people. Like, you can have prejudices and work at them. I heard a great thing at work not long ago, and it was a woman.
Excited, Rory got the hen.
I know, yeah. Do my politician hands.
Work.
Yeah. And there was a lady who was enforcing, and just openly, please take all of the names off of all of the applications you give me, because I'm just like anybody else. I've got preconceived notions about people based upon where they're from. I don't want to know where they're from. Yeah. Take all the names off of them, please. It was a great thing to admit, because nobody would. Oh, I'm not racist. Oh, I'm not prejudiced. I can't be.
Yeah.
You know everybody what? So I worked when I was about 17 or 18. I worked at Minster Football Club and I applied for a job at an offshore wind turbine company in an accounts role. My manager, after I got the job, my manager told me that she's from the same town as me. She read my CV, and although I worked at Middlesbrough Football Club, on the side, I worked at a local social club. Me and my best friend worked there. We would get free drinks, and it was the most fun ever. I had a full-time job at Middlesbrough Football Club working in accounts stuff and worked at a social club. My CV got put in the no pile initially because I'd wrote that I'd worked in a social club. Yeah. And that judgment of somebody who knew, oh, it's a social club, oh, it's a rough area. I got in the no pile, and then she reread my CV, brought it back out, and I got the job. I was the best applicant.
Middlesbrough Football Club is the non-rough side of that coin.
Yeah.
My old man was a councillor at Stockton Council. Yeah. And we lived in Eaglescliffe, and he was councillor of Hardwick. And he had several times he had people come to him saying that the address was working against him to try and get a job. Yeah. So he gave them his address. And we used to get mail sent through to our address from people he had living in Hardwick. And the turnaround was huge. He would say because they had an Eaglescliff address. Yeah, yeah. That's what he used to do. Of course. And I was just like, holy shit.
When I first started working in London, I was told by, it was a big software firm, I was told by the woman there, the first kind of not assessor, the first person that onboards you to work on my accent.
That's what I've been doing.
She was from Middlesbrough. This woman in London was from Middlesbrough, and she'd shed herself completely.
You never took that advice, though, did you?
Oh, fuck no. No. I'm just as capable as everybody else.
Look, just because it hurts doesn't mean it was not good advice, Rory.
Fucking was.
It's this, isn't it? It's exactly what we were saying before about professionalism, and can somebody do a job better if they're covered in tattoos and not covered in tattoos, if they say the fuck word and not the fuck word. All that shit. It's kind of like, actually, we really need to start challenging more of this stuff. Fucking hell. Come on, kids, shut up.
I work in a really good company now. For people that can't see, I'm covered in both my hands are tattooed. I mean, everything's tattooed, but specifically both the backs of both my hands. And when I went to my boss, it's a big software firm. I see clients and stuff. And he was like, why are you asking me? Yeah. Just do it. And I was like, oh my God, really? Like, it felt like such an enriching thing.
Yeah, mental,
and now when I say I'm feeling really unwell, I need some time, to take as long as you need. Yeah. Take as long as you need. Like, there's no stigma anymore.
And that's the future.
Oh, absolutely it is. It really, really is, yeah. I love where I work, yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. I love you guys.
I love you too, man. It's awesome.
Right, let's finish this shit.
We could genuinely talk all day.
I know. Let's just do a full
So,
series.
do you want to try and summarise something, Helen?
I can't fucking summarise
all of that.
2 hours. 2 hours.
Ultimately, simple doesn't mean easy. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. You've got to do what's right for you. And you know what? Asking for help is okay. Feeling all of the feelings is okay. You don't have to stay where you are. Right now isn't your end result. And Rory's got tattoos everywhere. And Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones.
Full circle. What I would add to that is just be kind to people. And it sounds like
yourself.
100%. And if you feel like you need help, it's okay to not be okay thing. I think that might have run its course. I think it's a bit simplistic. But
so actually, can I just one thing on that is I actually got really triggered.
Ended.
I know, sorry. I got really triggered because I seen a rant about the whole it's okay not to be okay, and somebody saying it's not okay to not be okay, and I was like, fuck that bullshit. It is okay to not be okay. It's not okay to not get help or move forward. I understand that point. I don't agree with it, and I think they got on the back of the wrong thing. Yeah. But I understand what. Don't even fucking touch that button. I swear to God.
I've got a new one here.
Go on then. What a dick.
Think about this time we done tinfoil hats.
Yeah. I forgot what I was saying now.
What's important about the whole it's not okay to not be okay. I mean, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, I think what people might mean when they say that is it's not okay to feel like that.
Yeah, but it is okay to feel like that.
It is okay. There's no morality in it, but it's never nice to feel like that. Like, it implies, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I see it as like you saying, oh, it's not okay for you to feel like that.
But I think some people have said, like, if you snap your leg, there's nothing wrong with having done that. There's no morality in it.
It's the shame thing.
No, I think we're just talking around the same thing. But yeah, I think.
Oh, I'm tired. Let's go.
Yeah, I think. But yes,
just want to say it is okay to feel all the feelings, and I'm right and Rory's wrong.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
Division.
And if you ever just open up and believe me, take it from me. I've had the walls up for years. Yeah. I'm from a coal mining town in the northeast of England, a shipbuilding town. I'm 6'2". I was told to be tough. If I can open up and fucking shed that stigma, please, everybody else do the same.
Did you ever build a ship though?
Little wooden ones, yeah. My granddad worked
at
the shipyards. Yeah.
That's another story from the time.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that actually.
It didn't float, it was only this big.
Really?
The whole thing, yeah. But yeah, it's
true though. I mean, the industrial town thing is
when
really
I opened up and said those words, I'm not okay, I need help, I don't want to be here anymore. Nothing happened. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. The world didn't implode. Yeah. Nobody pointed and laughed at me. And if they did, fuck them. Who gives a shit? Like, those aren't the people you want around you in the first place. So just please do yourself a favour. And if you feel you're able to, open up, push your boundaries, and let people know.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. Legend.
Done.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
If
you have made it to the end of this pod,
nobody is listening right now.
We barely made it to the end.
We are on our ass, and we hope you enjoyed it. But the other thing is, our opinions are our opinions, and then you're entitled to those as well. And we try and keep it balanced and nuanced, don't we? Which is probably why we've gone on so long, because there is so much to it, isn't there? Even the sort of we went in deeper on some of these areas, and I think particularly it's like. The nature of like what works for you, for me, is huge, and I think the nature of kind of overcoming it and recognizing something, it is something we need to get to. But there's a balance. You can still be a bloke and still be whatever you consider masculine to be without having to sacrifice that. And I mean, just think of it like if it was your physical health and you're in pain, you'd be on it straight away, wouldn't you?
I'd kickbox and knit. Put it that way.
But at the same time.
No weapons.
Holy shit! Can you imagine that would be like that?
Oof, that's ninja, isn't it?
Yeah, I've seen a guy juggle 3 Rubik's cubes and do the Rubik's cubes at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not that good yet.
I'm surprised you can't do that.
He's probably got about 12 people following on TikTok.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Poor bastard.
Yeah, but I kickbox and knit. I'm a big heavy guy that writes poetry. Who gives a fuck? Just do what you want. Dude.
Let's end this.
Follow the joy.
See you soon. Best wishes.
Bye.
Best wishes.
About the campaign. Borough Man Can is a men's health initiative that aims to increase male access to health services through the use of role models and inspirational stories. Visit www.boroughmancan.co.uk to find out more. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the pod.